Okay, you're live.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is 4:33 p.m., October the 12th, 2021, and this is the Athens-Clarke County Board of Elections and Voter Registration's regular meeting. And because of COVID precautions, this meeting will be live streamed here. So thank you. If we could get you, Adam, or someone to read the oath of office, the board's members' oath of office.
I'm happy to.
Thank
I do swear or affirm that I will, as a member of the Board of Elections, duly attend all ensuing primaries and elections during the continuance thereof, that I will, to the best of my ability, prevent any fraud, deceit, or abuse in carrying on the same, that I will make a true and perfect return of such primaries and elections, and that I will at all times truly, impartially, and faithfully perform my duties in accordance with Georgia laws to the best of my judgment and ability.
Thank you, Adam. If we would just take a second to look at the agenda so we can get a motion to adopt it. And I'll entertain a motion while you're looking. I'll entertain a motion to adopt today's agenda.
Chair Fambro, I saw an email from Ms. Till wishing to table an item on the agenda. Do we need to do that now, or can we do that when we get to it?
We can entertain a motion to do that now, so we can take it off, so we won't have to go through that motion get to it. And then once we do that, we can adopt the agenda.
Shall I make the motion to table that for our next meeting?
Absolutely, yes.
Done.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? And that, Adam, do you have what particular item that was?
Yes, ma'am. If I'm understanding correctly, it was the item that we had discussed over email. So it would be item number 4 under old business.
Okay.
The one pertaining to previous lawsuits. So if that's the one that
that's
Ann
it.
means, that's the one that I have in the motion.
That's the one we had discussed. So all those in favor of tabling under old business number 4, would you please signify by saying aye or raising your hand?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Did I hear everybody?
Aye.
Okay, so the vote is unanimous. So I'll entertain a motion now to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Okay, to adopt the agenda, moved by Rocky Raffle and second by Adam Shirley. All those in favor, raise your hand or signify by saying yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. So the agenda will move forward without that. Now we will go to approval of the minutes from our September the 14th meeting, and then we'll go forth with the September the 21st, but we'll do the September the 14th first. And if we would just read over there and see if there are any corrections or something we might have missed, and then we'll entertain a motion to adopt the September the 14th minutes. They were kind of lengthy. Do I have a motion to adopt those?
So moved.
And second by Hank. Thank you all. So it has been moved that we adopt the September the 14th minutes at our regular meeting, and it's been second. Is there any discussion? There being no discussion, would you raise your hand if you are in favor of this, or say aye?
Aye.
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 Okay,
Aye.
it's unanimous. Thank you. And now if we would turn our attention to the September the 21st minutes and look over those and see if there are any additions or corrections. Okay, I have a motion.
So moved.
Thank you. I have a second.
Second.
Okay. It has a motion to approve the September the 21st minutes and second. All those in favor, would you raise your hand or signify by saying aye? Aye.
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 Thank you. That was unanimous. So we'll move forward for public comments. I think I saw one public comment. Could I get one of the board members to read that?
I'll be happy to, Madam Chair. I see it's from Grace Hall. Was that the one that you were thinking of?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Hi all, my name is Grace Hall and I'm a resident of Athens-Clarke County. Ahead of the 2021 elections, it is imperative that the Athens-Clarke Board of Elections ensure that all voters in the county have access to equitably placed and fully staffed early voting sites and drop box locations. This includes having an early voting location on the University of Georgia campus, offering early voting on both Sundays, and offering early voting from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. so that all voters can participate in our elections no matter their work hours, family obligations, or other extenuating circumstances. The county should offer 2 drop boxes as allowed per SB 202. Once these decisions are made, it is crucial that the Board of Elections clearly communicate the hours and locations for voters to cast their ballots by updating their website with information on early and drop box voting, as well as for those voting on Election Day. Thank you so much for your consideration and your public service to our community. Best, Grace Hall.
Okay. Thank you. I noticed that in the commentary, there were several things that we've probably already discussed, such as drop boxes, and we got some clarity from the attorneys on that, and a couple of the other items that were on there. We talked about SB 202 about early time of voting and early voting. And in the last meeting, which is probably, I'm sure it's on our website, the last meeting, we talked about why certain decisions were made in regards to the time supposed would be open for early voting, which were in line with the SB 202. If we have any concerns about that, I would suggest that that our community would look that up on our website, because we have really good information during that meeting about some of these things. Now we will have the director's report.
Good afternoon, board. I have an agenda that is highlighted in your minutes or in with your agenda. And I'll just go through it, but let me start with item number 1, and then I'm going to welcome Jeff Hale, our Human Resources Director, to the meetings to explain the criteria based on our poll workers' pay and COVID-19 vaccination incentive. So let's see. On your activity report, I'd like to point out that we now have 77,554 active voters in Clarke County, a total of 81,775 voters. And we have had 81 cancellations. 1 had moved out of state, 24 are felony removals, and 56 are vitals. And we are still producing voter IDs. I would like to report that we had to turn in some information to the state election board concerning a voter ID. And so we should hear some information on that, and will require an executive session because there would be possible litigation, but I will let you know that that is something that has been reported to the state election board. And with concerns of how we issue the voter IDs. And so that's all I have for the activity report. If you have any questions about that, before we go to Jeff Hale.
Are you able to elaborate a bit on that voter ID issue? Or I don't know if it's an issue, but whatever you just mentioned. Can you tell us any more?
I believe it's something they'll have to go into executive session about. But it's a fraudulent ID that was issued. Person with 2 different names, and the 2 names that were used are not even that person's name. So
It was issued by our office or issued by DDS?
By our office.
Oh, okay.
And as you know, to receive a voter ID, all a person has to do is come in here and register to vote. The documentation that they use to register to vote, they can get the ID based on the information that they put on the application. So that is a state law, and we did what we were supposed to do as it pertains to the law, and basically that's what it is. And when I noticed that the notice of the violation after it was done was reported as it should have been to the state election board.
Thank you, Director Soulsby.
All right.
I think I saw Adam's hand.
Just wanted to check on this. I am totally trusting of your judgment on this. Is this something that you would like the board to call an executive session for, so we could get more into this right now, or just after this meeting we'll have a separate time to talk about that? I'm curious, Madam Chair, what Director Soulsby thinks is best.
My understanding is because the executive session is not included on the agenda, that you would not be able to go into executive session.
We'll have to schedule it for our next meeting.
Yeah.
I see. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Soulsby.
Thank you. Okay, so the next item is our poll workers pay and COVID-19 vaccination incentive. And I'm introducing to you our Human Resources Director, Jeff Hale.
Thank you.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting me to the meeting. And I'm really just here as a resource to be of service to you with questions that you may have, and understand that there's some thoughts about perhaps differentiating pay for poll workers as it was prior to the Mayor and Commission's passing of the minimum wage to $15 an hour. And so glad to speak to you about that. I've got just a couple of slides I could show you. I'm here to answer questions, or you may want to talk more about the vaccine incentives, but I'd just kind of like some feedback from y'all as to what you would like me to do.
I think when we talked about the way the pay was set up, even though they had gotten a raise, we have different we have different levels of what people have to do as poll workers. We have poll workers, assistant managers, and managers. And previously there had been a $1 difference in each one of those levels. And we talked about this because as far as for me, it would not be an incentive for me to be a poll manager if I could be a poll worker and make $15 an hour.
Sure.
So,
Understood. Well, maybe if you all don't mind, can I just share my screen with y'all for a moment? Okay, thank you. Let's see if I can do this successfully. Are you all able to see that?
yes.
Okay, good. Let me do this real quickly so I can look into the camera while So, as you mentioned, Madam Chair, um, we had about 27 positions that were impacted by the $15 wage floor, and that, of course, has created the pressure that you describe, where people of higher responsibilities are being paid the same as some of those with lesser. And of course, um, we've been tasked during this fiscal year as HR to study the impacts of that in the wake of that decision, to provide recommendations for the FY23 budget where the organization could address this organization-wide, wherever there are some of the pressures upwards, like we described. What might it cost? How localized is that? How far up the chain of command does it go, in each spot, and what might that cost to address? And so HR is going to do that, understanding that the board has some concerns in the immediate term and the ability to adjust pay for poll workers. So, as you said, ma'am, it's not particularly fair to have people take on more responsibility and get paid less. That's not a good incentive. Nonetheless, that's sort of where we are. Your pay is not differentiated anymore for those positions. So, some things to think about as you consider adjusting pay. We do plan to address this organization wide. You may want to get out in front of that a bit. Where you do have that authority, it runs up against the classification system for the unified government, where all the jobs sort of have a value assigned. And the reason for that is I'll get to in a minute. But in the meantime, there's some things you might consider. One would be to not pay too much more in the immediate term, to be conservative about differentiating pay so that we don't outpace what the organization decides to do for similar positions. So if there are other part-time positions that would be paid similarly to yours, then you wouldn't want them to be too far out of whack or to have to lower one or the other, maybe inappropriately. I'm sure you're aware that the positions were probably not budgeted for the $15 minimum. I don't know to what extent that's going to impact you, but if you increase the pay, that may be more additional funds that you need to find. I don't know if that's a concern or not. And then, based on any budget constraints you might have, you have to think about, how many people can you afford to work and how many hours, of course. And then we want to be sure that we don't create those inequities among positions that, or at least for too long. I don't see a fundamental problem with any of this as long as it's not an unreasonable sort of raise or differentiation in pay, and I know you wouldn't do that. But where I live is sort of in this system where it's all got to hang together, where we make sure that we have sort of transparency and equity, where jobs that kind of do similar things get paid similarly. And it's sort of like we value positions like the tax assessor might uh, assess your house. So each position has a relative value to each other position to make sure that we have equity and fairness in pay. And there's a good bit of federal law around that. So we have to take that fairly seriously. And we also are careful not to pay people more than a job may be valued at as stewards of taxpayer money. And we make sure that we have the right qualifications in those jobs to speak to what they have to do safely and equitably. And so this is just for your consideration. You know, when I say a conservative sort of view of this, the previous pay is here for your positions. And of course, it got flattened out, albeit everybody got more. That leaves still a problem where you've got supervision and a lack of differentiation in pay. And so you could do something like this or close to it and still run close to classification, not get out ahead of the study, and provide a little bit of incentive. I'm not saying this is the outside limit, but it is one way to look at it. And so I just offer that to you as an initial thought.
Madam Chair. Think you recognize me. Just a question. I had to step away for a moment. Did we discuss the COVID-19 stuff yet, or are we still talking about this? Okay, thanks.
Madam Chair, I think you're muted.
Yeah, I had asked if any more board members had questions regarding what Mr. Hale had just discussed and told us where they are, Rocky, and then Adam.
I think Adam was first, so you can go first, Adam.
Thank you. I'm curious. So this question might be best addressed to Director Sosby, but I want to make sure that Director Hale and Attorney Pappas can hear it too, in case I stumble over into their lanes. Am I correct that we as a department have the ability to reallocate our fiscal 22 funds at our discretion to cover a pay increase like this for our fiscal 22 budget? Is that much correct? And then I have a second part, but I want to pause there.
So our budget is split into, I believe, 3 different categories. The first category is personnel. So there's possibilities of moving money within personnel, but not from operating expenses.
Understood. Okay. And then I want to pause just in case, like Director Hale or Attorney Pappas, do you see, is there a danger of us running afoul of something else if we act within the allocation we already have for this fiscal year? Okay. So I don't know, that's not the end all be all, but just that gives me some encouragement. And then am I correct then that if we wanted to look ahead to fiscal 23, this would be where we would need to, if we're going to come down to asking the county for more allocation or appropriations, that would be where we need to keep in mind more of what Director Hale is talking about. Have I got that right? That's more of where this is. There's a pay study we're kind of re-examining this. The advice is to maybe consider all the things that you've presented. This fiscal year, we can sort of rearrange things if we want to, but be mindful you're kind of suggesting about next fiscal year. Have I got that right?
Yes, sir. I think that's what I'm suggesting is that if you were to say differentiate that pay by $2 or $3 or something, it could sort of start to create some inequities that, even though that wasn't the intent, could be actionable on behalf of employees. So I think understanding that there's going to be a need to address this, wouldn't get too far out ahead of it, though understand the sort of contingent need in the meantime, if that helps.
It does. Thank you. Madam Chair, if you don't mind, one last thing. When, Director Hale, do you happen to know when this, I believe I understood correctly, there's a pay study going on right now. When do you think that pay study will be concluded and we'll have a better idea of what the advice is for what room we have to expect to differentiate pay.
So we actually had to go out to bid and have an interview with a potential professional services to help us do this. We just don't have capacity in-house. And so I would expect that to kick off and hopefully sync up with the FY23 budget in progress, so that in early calendar 22, somewhere February, March, maybe as late as early April, we have a number and recommendations around that, depending upon schedules.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Rocky?
So we can make a decision if we wish. But and I'm sorry, I missed your answer. I apologize if you have to repeat yourself. The recommendation you made is for the next fiscal year 23 or 22, whatever the next one is. Is that correct? Because, and I say that because your recommendations were pretty close to what I was thinking anyway.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know how to negotiate, so obviously you're undercutting me, but it's pretty close to what we were thinking. At least me. I can't speak for the others.
My understanding is, if you have that authority,
right?
If you have the budget to cover it, there would be nothing to preclude you from doing that. And so the ask is simply that mindfulness about
Yeah, of course.
That's all.
And I fully understand that part.
Yes, yes, sir.
Like I said, your recommendations were very close to what we had.
Let me give credit that the numbers that you saw were Director Sotheby's. I concur with those as well. That would have been
okay. Yeah. And I will say that it's really important that we do something. We have to do something because we just don't have the workforce to carry out fair and equitable elections for the voters. So, there's not enough staffing as far as poll workers. So we need something to retain these people.
And always, there does sometimes there is the greater good that has to be accomplished. And
right.
If we can do it within a conservative way and achieve our goal, then great. And if we can't, then we have to have free and fair elections.
And my next question, Madam Chair, is actually for the attorney's office or the manager's office, if they're listening. If we were to make a recommendation as a body to change the pay, would it be best for us to do it in a resolution or just a simple motion? The reason why I bring up a resolution, if that personnel budget play is not available in Director Sotheby's budget and she would have to go to the commission, it does maybe a declaration, or sorry, what's the word? It's losing my mind. Does the help me out here, someone? Resolution, thank you. Does the resolution carry more weight in the ask to the mayor and commission for additional funds?
And that is directed at our attorney and maybe someone from the manager's office.
Yes, correct.
So I can attempt to answer this question, but I will also defer to our HR director. It's a great question here, Mr. Raffle. I think staff would 100%, drive the notion of being consistent with our compensation plan, the study that just came out, and asking you all to be patient, understanding that what you're asking for is honorable, and we understand why you're asking, but we're trying to create some consistencies within the organization, and we don't really want to create inequities. Now, that being said, you as the Board of Elections certainly have the right to do so per the charter. So, I think staff's responsibility would be to have a conversation with Mayor and Commission about the ask. And, whatever you all decide to put in the resolution, that would be certainly whatever y'all decide. But understand that staff stance here is going to be that we want consistency in the organization and we want to stick with our pay and compensation plan. And that would be the recommendation that we put forward, with all due respect.
Thank you. That's that answers my question, and I'm done after this comment, Madam Chair. Sorry
Go
for.
ahead. Go ahead.
I really like the recommendation, and I think that I would support that if others would for the time being, and then we can look at the study and reevaluate when the study comes out and the next budget cycle goes through. That is all.
Thank you. Do we have any other comments?
Yes, Madam Chair, may I make a comment?
Yes, please, Hank, yes.
So the general comment to Mr. Raffel and the rest of the board is I also very much support it, because I have not been comfortable with the idea of poll workers getting that increase, because I cannot justify it without the poll managers getting an increase. And then this leads to what I would ask Director Stolzby, because then some of the poll managers might be getting close to the staff salaries. And then are we going to, or would the Board of Elections office be reallocating that whole budget to compensate for the inequity there? And as we heard from the assistant city manager, that there has to be some kind of equity in the system. And I'm totally supportive of doing what works with the entire county, and not just of just a few of us going off just because we feel that everyone should be paying should be moved up to minimum wage. So I'm very much in support of the proposal and what Mr. Raffel just said.
Rocky, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I have another question. I apologize.
No.
The HR director, we do have an hourly pay. Is that set by the charter, or is that something that happens within the director's office? Or I guess, Charlotte, you could have answered that too.
I believe your per diem is set by the county. It's not set by our department.
Okay, thanks.
Shall we put this on the agenda for our next November meeting?
Is it on? Well, it's actually a regular item later. We can come back to it on.
Okay,
Let's
okay,
do that, so we
Okay.
don't take other people's time.
fine. Okay, that sounds great.
There was, I guess, some questions about vaccination policy, or is there anything that I can assist with on that front, Madam Chair?
That might not have been a question that came from me, but one of the other board members might have asked that question. But any information that you give us concerning that, and since our meetings are public, it would be good information for the public.
So you would like just some general?
Yes, please. I'm sorry. I was.
Yes, ma'am. No, it's okay. I just want to be sure I answer what you're asking. So on the 8th of September, the government did adopt a vaccination policy. It uses the word of a mandate, which means it is requiring employees to become fully vaccinated by November the 10th. And so currently, we are soliciting and collecting from our employees two pieces of information to show vaccination status. One is a copy of their vaccination card, and another is just a one-page affidavit. And so we're collecting that information now. The word mandate is a strong word, and requirement is a strong word, and it's a strong message that the mayor and commission want to share. From a practical standpoint, when November 10th comes and goes, Those who are not fully vaccinated will be required to continue to follow CDC guidance on mask wearing, social distancing, hygiene, as right now, given our transmission levels, we all are. We hope soon that those transmission levels come down to a moderate or low level under CDC tracking, at which point people who are vaccinated may no longer have to wear a face mask. But those who are vaccinated would have to continue under the policy. So to the extent that there's a mandate and that there may be discipline around that policy, it's really focused upon the social hygiene and mask wearing and distancing piece, and hoping through a strong message and frankly some pretty strong incentives and carrots to try to get people who might be on the edge over the hump and to get them vaccinated. And so there are some incentives that you may be interested in. Right now, everyone who's able to show those two pieces of proof that they're fully vaccinated by November 10th, who is actively working, whether they're part-time or full-time, who are employees on our payroll, will receive a $200 incentive payment on November 19th. In addition to that, again, we're trying to incentivize and remove barriers. So 8 hours of paid leave is available to full-time employees. And then we have some provisions for people who are unable to get vaccinated in their off hours. And so there's vaccine leave they can use to go get vaccinated during working hours. It's 2 hours an appointment, I think. And some additional vaccine hours for side effects if you suffer for them. I think that's up to 4. So about 8 hours total of vaccination leave available for people. And then lastly, if you're part of our wellness program, there's a $25 incentive that you can get in addition for becoming fully vaccinated.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Rocky, you have a question?
Adam was up first. Go.
Okay. I'm missing it every time, guys.
Thank you, Rocky. Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm curious, this might be more for Director Sosby. Would our poll workers qualify for the vaccine incentive, the $200 payment as temporary workers?
Yes, they do. And we have been receiving their vaccination papers and the forms that they have to fill out.
That is wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, my other question is, where do I send my vaccine card?
Good question, Rocky.
We're collecting those through, there's an Ask HR sort of portal that it can be electronically sent through. There is also payroll preparers in each department have some envelopes that people can self-seal if they like, that is confidential, that gets delivered here. So, you know, this is anybody who is an employee of the government. I do not know if boards and authorities are part of that or not. Perhaps the attorney can answer that for me. If she's still around, she may have had to go, huh?
Jeff, I'm here. This is Lisa Pappas. Can you repeat your question again? I'm sorry.
I think the question, I think our policy on vaccines, the incentives are limited to people on the payroll as such who are employees. I don't know for certain if boards, authorities, commissions qualify as employees. I'm not sure they do.
I am not sure they do either. I would need to do a little bit of research, and while we're finishing this meeting, I'll see if I can get that answer before we
I'm
end.
sorry,
If not,
I don't know
no,
for
that's all right.
sure.
If not, I'll get it as soon as I can.
But glad to know that you're vaccinated or becoming so. That's the important thing.
Do we have any other questions? Mr. Hale, thank you so much for the information that you brought before the board and the public today, and we really appreciate it. Thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
All right, if I can continue.
Yeah.
I wanted to see if the board could give us feedback, if they received any feedback from our voter education projects. The one that we presented on September 16th to our political parties, September 23rd to our community, and then on September 28th, our elected officials. And if you have any feedback, I appreciate it. And I think some of you did openly, like after the forums, you did share some of your feedback, but I didn't know if you had received any from others, like maybe through emails or have run into them in person. All right. Okay, and so the next item is item 4, just an update of the budget, that we have expended 17% of our budget through August 31st, which is a good thing, I think. So we keep track of that so that, you know, we get to a point where we need to request more with the contingency. We know what we need to do, and that lets us know how we need to do our overtime, because a lot of the overtime that we are using in this election was not budgeted. We knew we were having a Winterville election, but we weren't really sure about the East Blast. So there's a lot of overtime being spent. For the absentee ballots, as of today, we have issued 51 ballots, and that's every person that has requested. We did have some applicants who had completed their forms from the previous election. And of course, we know from Senate Bill 202, there's a totally different application. So those voters have been contacted and either mail the updated form so that they can affix their driver's license and or state ID. On item number 6, we will have our vote review panelists who will come in on some of these days that we will be adjudicating, which is November 1st and November 2nd. But we will start our absentee ballot processing on October 18th through the 22nd from 1 to 4 p.m. And then October 25th through the 29th from 1 to 4 p.m. And then, as I stated, November 1st from 1 to 4, and then November 2nd from noon to completion. And those dates have been advertised per state law and will be ready to begin October 18th. And if we finish before 4 o'clock on any of those days, we will post a notice that we have ended the day and will begin again the following day at 1 p.m. So you have an item that you would need to appoint a vote review panelist before the ending of your meeting. And those code sections 21-2, 483G2A, as well as a panelist for the duplication team. As far as advanced voting is concerned, we started advanced voting today. We had 44 advanced voters as of the close of business. And I will highlight, since we do have hopefully an audience, that we will have advanced voting here in the office every day from 8 to 5, with the exception to October 27th, where we will have extended hours at 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, this coming Saturday, and the following Saturday, so Saturday the 23rd and the 16th, we will conduct early voting from 9 to 5. And then on Sunday, the 24th, 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. And we will open our additional sites beginning of week 3, which starts October 25th, along with extended hours on the Wednesday, October 27th. And we will have Saturday voting on October 23rd at those locations from 9 to 5. The next item is a briefing of Election Day. The polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on November 2nd, and all voters should report to their county precinct locations if the voters prefer to vote on election day. All voters, with the exception to those who are registered in the city of Winterville, will have the East Block question on their ballot. And if anybody's interested in the sample ballot, they can find it on our website. We have our November 8th meeting, Monday, November 8th, to certify our election and to confirm our provisional ballots. That will be at 5 o'clock, I believe. Is that correct? Just want to make sure, because that is the last day for us to certify the election. We have 3 positions that we will be advertising. I don't believe they're posted right now, so there might be an extension on those dates. 3 part-time election clerks, and hopefully the start date will be October 25th, but it doesn't look like it's going to be that soon based on having to get those interviews in and getting folks pre-cleared and ready to be hired. I think there's 4 open records requests in your packet. And then if you have any comments, questions, I'm available to answer those.
Do any of the members have any questions for Director Soulsby? Hank?
Just a general question about the budget. Are you concerned about the overtime that we have had so far? Does that generally happen in the past off-year election? That's one question, and then I've got another one regards this one afterwards.
Yes, I do have concerns because we haven't even got out of the year yet, and there's a lot of overtime that's being put into this election. And it kind of puts us in a situation, but if we have to go and ask for more money in a contingency request, then that's what we'll have to do. But the poll worker training is requiring more time than we allotted. As a matter of fact, we didn't allot a lot of poll worker training because at the start of the request for FY22, there was no East Block selection in our view. So
do you have a feeling that if the poll worker were paid $15 an hour, we would have more application, or you don't think that's really connected to not getting enough applications?
I'm not sure. I can tell you that as we hire them, they're leaving us. They're something's come up and they're not even going to work. So, and that happens most elections. But not really sure. And there's a process to hiring poll workers. There's the application process, and there's the interview process, and then there's the clearance process that we have to get them hired and interviewed and everything so that they can go to training and be ready for election day. And it just puts us in a kind of a bind when, there's not enough time to do that.
Just a wild thought that has come to me is, can you borrow poll workers and train them from Athens-Clarke County government? Ask the managers if they have some excess capacity for a day, each person, or that saves money coming out of the budget and they get involved. It's just a wild thought.
There is a policy with Athens-Clarke County that there's no kind of double dipping into the budget. So
right.
A person couldn't work for us and be paid, or couldn't work in another department. Basically, it doesn't even say anything about pay. It's just if you're an employee of Athens-Clarke County, you're to report to that department. Now, we have had people to help us, particularly when we had the pandemic in 2020. There was some, but I don't believe they served as poll workers. Oh, they did?
if that policy had to be changed, yeah, because it doesn't cost the county someone if they lent you someone for 1 day, or the department lent you someone for 1 day for 8 hours. So I guess that would have to go through the proper channels to make a change to that policy.
Well, it'd be a policy change particularly, but Lisa can
Okay.
answer a little more about what we did in 2020.
Okay, so for the June election, when COVID was really hitting hard at first, we were extremely short of poll workers. And just to be able to stay open, Charlotte was able to go and somehow manage that we could ask other departments to, like you said, loan us their employees. I believe they were paid by their departments for that day. We didn't expend our funds for them. But it turned out where we only had, if I remember correctly, 11 people who helped us, and they were not really from well, they were from a department, but not what you would think of. They were from the Community Leaders Program. So it was 11 community leaders from across the county. And that worked nicely. We enjoyed having them to come work with us, but I don't think it's something that we'll be able to do every election. I think it was because it was an emergency situation.
Well, I mean, it's just something to, yeah, if it's an emergency, I guess that is something that could be looked at down the road. The other question I had is, what do we have any statistics from the past as to the turnout for the early voting? I should have looked this up earlier in terms of our number of people who came in today or what to expect this week. I'm just kind of curious as to what numbers do we expect from advanced voting?
To be honest, I believe 40 is good for today. I can see it picking up maybe another 20 or so as we get to the end of the week. I'm not hearing a lot about the election or people talking about voting. You know, if we were voting something big, our mayor, you know, like at City of Atlanta or some of these other municipalities, we would probably have a bigger turnout. But it didn't surprise me that we only had 40 today, to be honest.
Okay. Thank you, Director Sosby.
Thank you. Rocky, I believe I saw your hand.
Yes, and I kind of lost track of thought, but it's coming back to me.
Yeah.
Poll worker, yeah, that's it. So we had discussed on and budget planning in the past, education pieces and some advertising pieces. Would we want to consider some advertising and education in terms of poll worker recruitment, and maybe focus some of those efforts that way? I understand it's a process to bring people in. You can't just say, hey, go work, but maybe we could work on a plan for better recruitment. And I say that because I know, like I mentioned to the HR director, if we are short on poll workers, that affects how well we can deliver voting to folks on election day and these early voting sites and everything else. So something to consider in the future.
We do have a plan in action that will start the first of the year. Probably February, we'll be doing a campaign recruitment. And it's going to be through an agency. I forgot the name of it. What would it be? Students. Radio station. WE. It's a radio station, a student radio station. We're going to do some advertising there.
Okay, yeah. As a board member, I'd love to participate in developing that and how that looks and see what we can do to help bring people in, because between the 5 of us, your network is now 5 times greater than that, right? So
yeah, well, we will have to definitely rely on our PIO officer because there's a brand that we would have to use with our advertising. And
Absolutely. Yeah,
so,
I understand, and that would be
Mhm.
great, but I'd like to participate and make that an initiative of ours, because this is continuing to be a challenge for us.
yeah, and I appreciate that. But it's a challenge throughout the state. It's not just us. It's just hard to get poll workers.
Well,
Um,
I'd like Clark County to lead the state, so let's be the leaders.
yeah, and then the 2020 elections didn't help either, because there were threats and different things like that, and it scared a lot of people.
Yeah.
And then of course the pandemic. So um, I have a positive outlook that we will recruit what we need to recruit, but it does make it difficult for us when we're trying to do our jobs as well. So
Any more questions? Director Sosby, I notice it's getting close to 5:30. And I believe you had to leave and go to another meeting.
You're muted.
I'm watching the agenda, or I'm glancing at the agenda and see that it's pretty far down. So I'll try to stay as long as I can.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Good. And I think what's trending even in the United States is that even companies out here who are offering $15, $16, $17 an hour are having a terrible time getting employees and retaining employees. I actually have no clue for what's causing this, whether it's COVID or something else going on, but it seems to be trending that way. Director Sosby, do you have anything else you want to add, or excuse me?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, well, thank you so much for your reports,
Thank you.
and we'll move forward with our agenda, and we will do, I think we're coming to the point where we'll be doing our old business. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, but my printer might have cut something off, but I don't think so. But help me out here. If that's so, then we're going to move forward with our old business. And the first item on our old business is the law enforcement quick reference guide, which we had discussed in last month's regular meeting. And I see that there's parentheses that has staff by that.
Madam Chair.
Yes, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to clarify that was just my attributing where that had originally come from, that agenda item. I know that my recollection is that we had kind of paused and tabled it until we had seen what the draft looked like.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we had gotten. I didn't know whether you want to toss it back over to them or have us talk about what we thought about the draft.
Yeah, what we thought about the draft, because I read it, then I reread it, then I read it again. So I thoroughly vetted it. And if no one has their hand up at this time, I'll just give my little commentary on it.
I did see Rocky, but.
Okay, Rocky, go ahead. Go ahead.
I would just like to say that admittedly, I have not had time to review it, so I would not like to be put in the position to vote on it today. So that's my comment, but
okay.
That's all.
Thank you. Even after reading it, I still feel that as a board member, it wouldn't be anything that I would vote a yes on for us to be disseminating. And also at the last meeting, I think it was Attorney Hines that said that their office actually disseminates information to the not directly to the policeman, but to whoever that liaison person is, in the police department. And I feel like if that's what the attorney's office want to do, but as a board member, I don't feel like that's something that I would feel comfortable in disseminating to the police department. Because I and other people look at it in a different way. It's, it seems like an invitation rather than information. And I think we have a very good police department here. I think that people do their job, maybe, and they're not over excessive in what they do most of the time. But I still don't think that it's anything that I can get behind, and that I would raise my hand to say that that's something that the board needs to be disseminating. Adam?
I'm really thankful that we got to look at a draft of it. And I'm really impressed by how simple it is now, straightforward it is. And I've been humbled again because it was not at all what I was expecting it to be. And seeing what it actually is, I'm sensitive to the broader concerns about, like we talked about, like we some of us on the board agreed that we were hesitant to do anything that looked like it was going to encourage more presence of law enforcement officers at the polls. But I guess what I'm curious more about with this is being reminded, if we wouldn't mind checking with staff or maybe the attorney's office, what problem does this seek to solve? Like, I'm curious to know, is this about helping reinforce a relationship that already exists? I remember being told that the Clarke County Police Department does already interface with the Board of Elections Department and ahead of elections to be prepared for things, that this would just simply enhance that. Are there like specific problems that we've encountered that we think this would help clarify? I want to be more clear on what this is seeking to solve.
Can I answer that, Charlotte? Okay. I apologize. I meant to do this earlier, but I just sent you guys the email chain that started this whole conversation within our office back from June. And before I forget your question, I'll answer that first. And then I want to give you a tiny bit more background. What I think that we hope to achieve with this is further enhanced relations with the police department, so that they understand anything that they might encounter at the polling location. I don't expect them to be called, but it would just be more information for them to have in case they were needed for whatever reason. Now, the background is that back in June, there was a report that came out. I believe that Charlotte forwarded me the email because she always sends me lots of really good things to read, from the Brennan Center for Justice. And the report was entitled Election Officials Under Attack. And within that, and it was about the 2020 elections and what we faced as election workers from the public, and disinformation about the election. So within that article, there was a really good piece written by Neil Kelly, who's the Registrar of Voters in Orange County, California. That's the city of Santa Ana, California. Now, granted, they're much larger than we are, but I was really intrigued by what he said. And so I asked Charlotte if I could pursue it, and she thought that that was a good idea too. So I contacted his office, which I sent you those emails just now, and asked them if I could use that as a template to look at and see what they had done. So that's where that started. And I was pretty impressed with the pocket guide that they created, because they had the same goals that we did, that we would have a good working relationship with our police department, and they would understand what our needs are. And so that's how we ended up with our little pocket guide. I tried to model it off of what Orange County, California did.
Thank you.
I would like to ask all board members, is there anything specific in that guide that has been prepared that seems troubling? I'm totally with what Lisa just mentioned about even the perception of threats that are out there in terms of getting it from citizens. Yeah, there may be just a few nuts out there, but nevertheless, it only takes one nut to disrupt a lot of things. And I'm not sure that particular draft that has been presented, how that would change anything from the law enforcement. So y'all can maybe comment on it. Maybe I can understand it from a little better from a different point of view. Rocky's got his hands up.
Yeah, I just want to say that I echo the comments that Willa made and support those and understand where, or I'm trying to understand where she's coming from. So, but I do see that it's a pretty straightforward, pretty easy to understand guide. And I think I've mentioned this in a previous meeting that I think it should, something like this should be in the poll manager's toolkit rather than spread to the police department, in my opinion. I think it's great. I think it's something the poll manager can pull out. They're going to be the first point of contact on whatever situation could happen. That's my thought.
But why not both the poll managers and the law enforcement so that they are both on the same page as what could be expected?
I mean, I don't want to get into a conversation about the police department because that's not why we're here. But I would just say that how are you to know, or there's how many people in that department and how do you know who's on shift and what day, what other emergencies are happening, blah, 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 right? You just don't know. But you know who your manager is. They're the person that's there. So.
And really, as I said before, I think the attorney's office said that they do have interaction with the police department. And I struggle with talking about this, really, but I guess I'll have to. Black people don't have a very good relationship with police and voting since even before Voting Rights Act was approved. And I'm not saying the police are like that now. I'm not saying that. But everybody carries their own individual thinking and mindset to a job. And I don't want it to seem like to my community that we're giving the police department an invitation to come and look and see what we're doing wrong. And I think what Rocky is saying is that the manager of the poll certainly has training if an incident occurs. I just don't want to think that people will get in their mind that police will be driving by, because that's an incentive for a Black person not to go to the poll. I'm not saying they're going to be driving by, but that's in the back of some people's mind.
Well, Chairman Fambro, I can say without a doubt that when our office started to develop this, that having the police drive by our precincts was not part of the plan.
And I totally understand that. And it was done, I really understand that it was done out of good heart from the staff. And I'm a lady of a particular age. And I keep saying this over and over. So I still have memories of some things that have transpired that people who are 40 and 50 years old don't know anything about. So it's a lot of us 72-year-olds left around, still living and breathing. And with that said, as I said, I think it was done with a good heart, but maybe not what I'm saying today has been included in the picture of when it was done. And I think it's an excellent tool, as I said, for our, and as Rocky has said, for our poll managers. But there's still some angst, I believe. I don't say against, but I think there's still some angst, maybe from the past, of how police have treated Black and brown folks. And I do not want anyone in the community thinking that, okay, the Board of Elections fixed this up, gave it to them. So today, instead of seeing no police, I see I see police driving by, and I'm not saying they're gonna do this, but I'm in preventative mode, driving by many more polling places than normal. So that's my take on it, and I've said how I will vote, and I don't want anyone thinking that it's not a good idea, but I don't think it's a good idea to push it forward from the Board of Elections.
May I say something too? Our initial thought was having, again, the communication with the police and them understanding that there are election laws that they just shouldn't intervene with. I mean, it can go both ways. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. And
Okay.
my main focus are my workers. I have to always have them in mind. And with what we dealt with, we didn't deal with it here personally, but what Georgia dealt with in 2020, I'm afraid we're going to start losing people because there is no protection that they can see, so to speak. Not to say that the police need to be roaming around, not to say that, but they need to be free to feel like they can interact in some kind of way. And I know this is a touchy subject, but I have my workers' best interest first, voters as well. But when we put our voters out there to deal with when we put our workers out there to deal with voters, I can't trust that it's going to be a good experience me sitting here in my office. I can't trust that. And so I feel like who would get the call first, I need to have something that I can rely on. And that's just how I feel. And if something happens, I don't want to wait until something happens for us to have a plan in place. I like for us to have a plan in place, and if something happens, we have that plan, not the fact that you've got to get together and have a meeting to vote if we need to have something happen. I mean, that was the purpose of it, but if it's being seen a different way, then whatever you decide is fine with us.
Any more comments?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Yeah.
Just like we had the HR director here to explain some other things, could we invite someone from the police department to our meeting to brief us on what they do or their plan for election day? Just an idea or a thought.
Adam?
I'd be interested in that also. I think I have benefited greatly already from the other perspectives that I've heard different from my own. And I think that would be another perspective that is different from my own. So I kind of want to echo that. But then I had a separate question. I was curious, Madam Chair, what you like. Again, I'm trying to tread lightly here because I know that there is a lot going on here that I don't understand. And I like the way Rocky said it. I also am trying to understand what I've learned from staff so far is that there is already conversation that goes on, right? Interfacing between our staff and the police department. If I'm remembering incorrectly, please correct me. I think maybe Lisa or Director Sosby had mentioned this in a previous meeting, that there is some, just in general, some like a kind of a heads up to the police department that there will be gatherings of people at these polling places on election days in a normal year. So I'm curious to know, if we were not to proceed with this guide, whether, like, is it just that this here is maybe one step too far and what has been going on is okay, and that's what we're kind of, that's what we're trying to get at here? Or is there something else we wanted to revisit, or a toned down version of this guy? Like, I'm curious, Madam Chair, what you think would be the most suitable resolution for this.
I think I've been really, really clear.
Okay.
You know, it's not much else I can say.
Yes,
As
ma'am.
I said before, Attorney Hines told us that they do have contact with the police department during this period of time. I don't know, I've not heard mention the staffs, the Board of Election staff say that they also have contact, you know, on that personal level. But when you begin to print up material with information, it kind of like put people on alert. You know what I'm saying? So I don't have anything else to say about it.
Okay.
Madam Chair, may I say something that may clarify something for Mr. Shirley?
Sure.
Okay, I did. I don't believe that I was present at the meeting that you were mentioning, Madam Chair, where Ms. Hines spoke about information that maybe the attorney's office has already given the police department. So I did confirm with Ms. Hines that our office has been in touch with the police department because there were some questions related to the laws to polls and activity that they might need to be prepared to deal with. So our office did disseminate some information to them related to that. Mr. Shirley, I don't know if that kind of clarifies your question. So there has already been information disseminated from the attorney's office to the police department regarding election laws and what to, and related to polls and all that kind of stuff.
And that was the commentary that I was making, that I think that is perfectly appropriate on that level. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you. Thank you, Attorney Pappas. That does help clarify. Then I would be, it sounds like if we were to take no action here, if the relationship were to continue in the interaction the way it has been, there would still be something going on as far as interfacing and making aware of the police officers what election laws are relevant here. But I understand that we're hearing concern from staff for workers. So I wonder what the appropriate action is here, whether we make a motion to recommend to approve or green light or sanction the use of this guide, or not, like just ask the staff not to use the guide, or simply not take an action and leave it to their judgment. I'm not sure what the best step is forward.
If you will remember that I had mentioned the fact that I thought that that would be appropriate information if the attorney's office had not turned over anything like a pamphlet, that might be an appropriate action for them to turn it over. But I don't feel that it's an appropriate action for the Board of Election to turn that over.
Then I think I'm very slowly catching on to what you're saying. And so I am finished commenting. Thank you.
Thank you. So are there any suggestions about how we will deal with the law enforcement quick reference guide, or does anyone have a suggestion? Does any of the other members have a suggestion? Hank?
Yeah, I hear you, Madam Chair. There's probably a lot of 72-year-olds who are going to be going out to vote, and they're still voting, and we don't want to dissuade any of them. But I still feel that not having or not feeling that you're safe in going to vote can also maybe discourage some people to vote, or possibly, or as Director Sosby said, they are not just her workers, they are all staff people who are all poll workers, are our county's workers. They are everyone's workers. And looking at 2020 election, and this being such a small election, and I have a lot of confidence in our in our police in terms of working with our attorney's office as to where their role is, where do they need to show any presence or not. I would like to make a motion, although I don't think I'm going to be supported here, but I'd like to make a motion to pass that brochure to law enforcement, or at least to the, maybe to the police chief, and they can decide which officers it should be passed down to.
So, and basically it's gotten back to the same question. Are you saying that you're making a motion that we turn that over, or that the attorney's office turn that over?
I believe since our office, or when I say our office, the Board of Election and Lisa in particular has prepared that in conjunction with the attorney's office, with the police officers, looking at other drafts from other places. We should turn it over to directly to the appropriate person in the police department and let them decide who it should be distributed to. There's only 24 polling centers, so it may only go to 24 officers.
Can you make that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, give me a moment and I'll just see
Had
how I
his
can do that.
Okay, Adam had his hand raised.
I'm sorry, I was going to maybe save Hank some time. What I have gathered so far, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I have a motion by Mr. Kadir that the Board of Elections and Voter Registration send the law enforcement guide to the police chief so that they can decide which officers to pass it to.
Could I make a comment?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Steele.
I'm sorry, I've not read what you're talking about, but listening to the general conversation from all sides, would it be possible, would it be more palatable if that went out in the name of the Board of Elections and of the attorneys? That way it wouldn't seem like it just came from the Board of Elections, but that we had legal counsel behind us on that. It's just a suggestion.
Madam Chair, if I may respond to Ms. Till.
Yes, go ahead, please.
Ms. Till, the law enforcement pocket guide that has been prepared was prepared by, I believe, Lisa McGlawn. Our office was not involved in the preparation of that, so to send it out indicating that it was with the Board of Elections and the Attorney's Office, I don't know that that would be prudent because we were not involved in the preparation of that particular pocket guide or brochure.
So would it be possible for your office to look that over and point out any glaring problems with it, and then maybe after that endorse it?
It would certainly be possible for our office to review it. I don't know how quickly the turnaround would be on that and how soon that this information needs to be disseminated to the police department. So we can certainly look at that, but again, I don't know how quickly that turnaround would be.
Okay, it seems like at least a possibility to be considered, and it might kind of salve both sides to this. It's just a suggestion that came to my mind. Thank you for your answer.
Lisa?
I can add that this is something that we were slowly working on with the purpose of presenting it to you at some point. It seems like it got away from us, so I apologize for that. To use in the 2022 election cycle. It wasn't something that we were rushing out right now.
In that case, I don't feel I have to make that motion. I somehow thought it was for this coming election, and I misunderstood that. So we have plenty of time to discuss this and come back to it way down the road.
Did I see your hand up, Rocky? Did I see your hand up, Rocky?
I was just making sure my lunch was not on my beard, so no.
Thank you. Okay, so do we want to move that forward to, the closer, sometime closer when we get to the 2022 election cycles?
I would think so.
So we need to make a motion that we table it for further discussion.
That would be yeah. Can someone make that motion if that's okay with the other members?
Let's let Adam do it since he's very legally verbal.
Thank you, Ann. I'll move to table the law enforcement quick reference guide item until March of 2022.
Whatever date you put on it, if you decide to move forward and we send it to the attorney's office, just make sure you allow enough time for that.
Mm-hmm. That would give us time, or beginning of the year, February. I mean January, February, March, whatever you guys decide. March is fine with me.
I'm completely open to friendly amendments about the date. I just wanted to make a motion to have it out there.
Mm-hmm.
I second it.
Thank you. It has been motion has been properly made to move this agenda item out to March of 2022 and properly second. So at this time, would you signify by saying aye and or raise your hand?
Aye.
Aye.
It was unanimous. The vote was unanimous.
Actually, I'm sorry. I'd like to vote no.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rocky. Secretary Shirley, you have that.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. I know you do. Thank you. Poll workers pay preserving step increase for high levels of responsibility. And we've gotten some more information on that. So if we want to, at this time, discuss that a little further, and I think that's what we said that we would probably do when Mr. Hale was here. Rocky?
I'm ready to make a motion, but if you want to carry on a conversation, I'm open to that too.
Well, you can make the motion and we can second it, because again, I will ask, is there any more discussion before we
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I move that we make the adjustments to the poll worker pay as per the recommendation of the Human Resources Department at Athens-Clarke County government.
I second.
And that recommendation is, just for clarification in the motion, was a 50-cent differential. So $15, $15.50, and $16 for the managers. I believe the PowerPoint said coordinator, but are they really, is that the working title, but we just use manager? Okay, I'm seeing some nods. So yeah, that's my motion. Adam, if you wouldn't mind reading it back, make sure we got it right. Thank you.
Sure. I have the spirit of it, and I have every word of it. I think you might be amenable to the spirit of it. Motion by Mr. Raffle to. Sorry, I had the verbatim version. Basically, you're saying that you want to increase the poll worker pay per HR, the Human Resources Department recommendation of 50-cent differential, right? 50 cents per hour increase for assistant managers, 50 cents again per hour for managers. Was that right?
Yeah, and then I'm not sure that this needs to be included or even part of the conversation at this moment, but once the study and the new fiscal year comes and all that stuff, we can have another conversation.
All right, Adam.
I'm curious, just for to specify this, when would you like this to be effective? For this election, for the May primary? I'm curious, Madam Chair, what the time of this is.
Would you repeat that, Adam? I'm sorry.
All right, I'm curious when this would go into effect, when Rocky would like this to go into effect for this election cycle, for the pay we're doing right now, the payroll, or May, or next fiscal.
Well, based on prior experiences, I'm assuming since they've already started and signed a contract, I'm not sure if that can be done. But if it could, that would be my hope. So I don't know if Charlotte could answer that or someone else.
Director Sosby?
What was the question? I know what it's about.
Basically, if this motion were to pass, would we be able to retroactively make that adjustment for example, the folks that worked early voting today and so forth? Or would
That would be an HR question. Every retroactive question that I've requested, it was always no. So that would be an HR question, but I will tell you, it's going to cost us approximately $9,960 more for this election. So average that out to the next 3 elections, I guess, that would be in this particular budget. Because that's like almost $30,000. So.
okay, thank you.
And did you mention, I think it was you, Rocky, that mentioned Director Sosby, so these people have actually signed contracts, and we would have to use the terminology retro that they would be going back to include that in their salaries. I saw your hand, Rocky.
Could we make it effective tomorrow? I know we couldn't do for today's workers and those folks that did LNA and such prior, but could it be effective tomorrow?
I would guess that would be another HR question. That would be my thought. Well, let me ask y'all a question, if I may. And I'm playing an advocate for my staff who are not making, who are just making $15 an hour. How do I keep my staff if they got a poll worker making more money than they are? I don't want them to start quitting on me because they can go and work as a poll worker and make more money.
Rocky, did I see your hand?
Yeah, I don't have to answer if someone else would, but I do have an answer. If
I do too, but you go ahead.
No, you go. I talk too much.
I was gonna, I feel the same way most of the time about myself. But anyway, I was thinking that you have to take in consideration the benefit package that your regular office people have. You know, when it comes to pay packages and like health insurance or whatever else employees get in a package, vacation time, sick leave maybe, whereas these people are getting a straight out 50-cent value. Did I see Hank's? Well, you would be next anyway, Rocky, and then Hank. And I think I might have seen Lisa's hand.
I'm actually going to pass.
I think it was my head shaking because I'm sure Charlotte and I both want to tell you that the things that you're talking about are not available to our part-time permanent employees. They don't have a benefit package. They get straight hourly pay. So it's only the full-time employees that have those benefits.
And I was not taking in consideration the part-time people because my mind didn't even run like that.
So, you know, you may not be aware that the poll clerks who work in the office, our office clerks, they're all part-time permanent employees. Our poll workers are part-time temporary employees, but the part-time permanent employees only work 29 hours a week and they're not, don't have the advantage of any type of benefits.
Right.
And usually during election time, they work 40-hour weeks.
Thank you, Lisa. Hank, I saw your hand.
Well, basically, I was going to make the same comment. If I think about it, for those folks, those perks don't apply. So that is not necessarily going to be a good answer to keep them. The fact they are permanent, they're full-time, part-time employees in the sense that they are getting 1,500 hours a year, maybe one small argument, but that is a huge thing that is a huge issue as I see it for any office, not just Board of Election. When you bring up the pay for people who haven't had the experience and give them that kind of, give them $15 an hour off the bat, and you have to raise massive amount of salaries for everyone else. And I'm not very comfortable putting our Board of Election staff in that position, or at least our director in that position, to be able to have to work it out. So I'm kind of reconsidering my position on that one. Thank you, Director Sosby.
Do we have any more comments?
Madam Chair, may I ask a question of Director Sosby that may help answer Mr. Raffles' question about whether or not, if the pay increase is approved by you all, if it could go into effect tomorrow?
Of course, thank you.
Director Sosby, I think you did mention the budget, but I just want to make sure. Does your budget currently have the funds available if the pay increase were to be approved? Do you currently have those funds in the budget?
I do not, and the only way I can see that we can make it work is to cut hours, but it's kind of difficult to cut hours when we have extended hours and we have additional weekend votes. It's going to be hard to cut hours with our poll workers.
So, Mr. Raffle, going back to your questions about when this could be effective, whether or not it could be approved, if it's approved, if it could be starting effective tomorrow, I believe the answer to that question would be no, because if there's not the current budget, you all would have to go to the mayor and commission for approval. And so you would have to wait till after that process in order to make it effective.
I mean, okay. But so yes, I hear that it's not in the current budget. I understand that. But I mean, if you were to increase it in so many months, then the funds would expire, right? So the money is there, so to speak. You'll just run out of your money sooner to pay everyone. Is the way I look at it, right? So there's time. I don't know if that's clear. I'm seeing some looks of confusion in the room, but yeah, go, Adam.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I might, I really appreciate the staff concern, and I'm sure this is a problem that every department in the county is facing right now, or to differing extents, the same kind of problem. And it makes me reconsider, just like Hank said, it makes me reconsider support, because on the one hand, I'm all for having the best of both worlds, having the differentiated pay for our poll workers, assistant managers, and managers, because I've heard people speak to the concern from firsthand experience that there are poll managers who are saying, why don't I just become a regular poll worker and not have all the extra responsibility and get out of there a couple hours early? But then if we go to support them, then it kicks up to our office people who are part-time permanent, who would say, hey, how about I just kick out of here and go work polls and make better money? And it is sad that that's the reality that we're in right now. And it's a much bigger problem than we can address right now, because we can make, what's it called, unfunded mandates, right? We can say we're going to find a way to pay this, but it's got to come from somewhere. I'm really humbled by learning about these realities of the budget. I support the spirit of this motion, but I don't think I'm going to vote in favor of it as it stands right now. That's just my thoughts on it right now.
Thank you, Adam. Do we have any more comments or information that will be relevant to the motion that is on the floor, or any more input in how we could possibly resolve this. And as I split my brain up, I'm sitting here thinking that I do want there to be a differential in the pay. And since this is one of our smaller elections, but some strain has been put on us because of some of the things in SB 202 also, because when you shorten the timeline on certain things, it will cause you to have to do more overtime in certain areas because you have to do it more speedily. Could we, and this is just up for discussion, could we see how this cycle goes and try to get an idea of how people are going to apply for the manager's position and the assistant managers at that pay level? And I'm not pushing I'm not pushing his motion out of the way. I'm just trying to throw a little something extra on the table that we might try to consider.
Could I make, excuse me, this is Audra. Could I make a comment?
Yes, please, please.
Up until about 2 weeks ago, I've been in the position as a clerk since 2019. Part-time, no benefits. So when the election comes, we're required to be working more hours, 60, 65 hours a week, maybe more, especially the last election. You're overworked and tired with no benefit. Some people don't have any health insurance at all. So if you get sick, you're trying to pay out of your pocket to go to the doctor, urgent care, whatever. And then you can't take off because you want your 29 hours a week. So if you take off this, you're just off without pay because of the no benefit status. So I would ask you to just keep that in mind when deciding your vote.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Adam?
Madam Chair, I'm seeing that this is, I really appreciate hearing from Ms. Taylor. I think the problem here is not that we want to increase the pay. The problem is that it's exposing that we are not similarly increasing the pay for other people. And so I think if we want, I want to do it all. I want to give everyone a better pay. I want to see everyone go up the same way that our floor has gone up. But I know that's out of our hands, right? That is an issue for next fiscal, at least for our budget proposal, and then for the county to find the funds for that. So I would like to see us make this kind of differential happen for the next, for at least the May primary. But that's going to be, that'll give us time to hear the pay study come back from the county, and we'd have more information. So I'm going to stop talking about this. I'm sorry, but I appreciate the spirit of the motion, but I'm not supporting this motion if it goes to a vote, because I want to make sure everyone is taken care of as well as we can do it.
I think we all need a raise.
Ms. Teal, would you repeat that?
I think we all need a raise.
I'll throw my hat in the ring for that too. I agree wholeheartedly.
So, if I may make another comment, Madam Chair.
Yes, please.
So there's this whole thing of people getting a promotion, and they get a promotion, and now you're the whatever, and you have twice as much work but the same pay. That doesn't fly. That is not fair and equitable. And the HR director was talking about making things fair and equitable. How is everyone making the same amount of money with increasing duties and responsibility fair and equitable? It's not. And to be quite honest, I think it's just bureaucratic tape that's holding this up. I mean, That's how I feel about it. And I still feel that these people deserve a raise, as do the people in the office, as does everyone else. But the barriers that are put in place to those raises are these things like, let's have a study and let's talk to this guy and that guy. Like, these people need to be paid more. This is why we cannot recruit more people.
I agree. I guess one of the questions that I failed to ask when we had him here was, could I please see the study that was done before you gave people raises? And I don't know whether they did a study or not. But certainly if they had, I'm thinking there wouldn't be so many inequities involved. But if there is, I'll try to contact them tomorrow to find out, but we're in the right here in the right now. It's kind of like, oops.
I do know that sorry to cut you off. I do know that the HR director did not make that decision. That was the mayor and commission.
Yes.
Right.
Well, I would be contacting him to find out what was the study made before. Surely he would have that information. I was not questioning the why and the wherefores, but just would like to see what prep work was done in doing this. It might give me some greater understanding of what is going on right now. And I think that we all have brought some good things to the table, and certainly all the things that we have said are true, but we still find ourselves in a position where we're trying to decide what to do. And as I see it now, I would think that I would be in favor of at least giving them an opportunity to correct this. And in correcting, I hope that it would be more than a 50-cent correction. So that's where I am right now. Hank?
Just a very quick comment to close on that, from my end at least, is, yeah, in spirit, I think we all want to have that differential between the skill levels and experience. But I agree. I think we should wait for the study, because one thing I do know, the study is going to talk about how each level pay has to be redesigned. And then, of course, it'll be up to the mayor and commission to find the money, if they can allocate it exactly like that or not. So eventually we will know. What I don't believe we can do is fix one officer's problem in that whole system. And it would be, we are fighting HR. We are fighting, it's not going to happen. And I think we're just making a haphazard decision on how much it should be increased by 50 cents, $1 for it. And trying to do this in this massive rush. And if it is not realistic that it's even going to be applying to this election, let us wait for the study to come in March, and then we can apply it to all the elections for next year. So I think we should just go ahead and table it and wait till the study's over before we move forward, instead of a haphazard raise, which I was for at the beginning after the HR director gave a proposal. I know Rocky wants to answer my question.
I actually don't. I was wondering if Ms. Till had something to add to the conversation.
I wish I had something brilliant to say, but I don't.
Yeah. I think that we with more information, we'd be more apt to come to a conclusion that we all can agree on. Rocky, you can set forth your motion and see if, what did it already second?
My motion still stands, and I still stand by it. So
Okay.
whether it dies on the floor or dies by a vote, that's how democracy works. But my motion still stands.
Thank you. That's very clear. That's a good clarity. And Adam?
Then just procedural question then. I think we were sidetracked by, I wanted to finalize the wording of the motion. When would you like it to be effective, Rocky?
Tomorrow.
Okay, so effective October 13, 2021. So then the motion that I have currently is motion by Mr. Raffle to increase assistant manager pay to $15.50 per hour and poll manager pay to $16 per hour effective October 13, 2021. I got
The recommendation of
Athens-Clarke County Government, of the Human Resources Department of the Athens-Clarke County Government. Okay.
Okay.
That is how I have the motion reading right now.
Okay. Adam has read the motion. Can I get a second on that motion?
I will second it just so that Mr. Raffle can have the votes counted for this particular motion.
Okay. So it has been seconded. I think I will ask anyway, is there any more discussion? But I think we thoroughly vetted a lot of areas on this. So there being no more discussion, all those in favor, would you please raise your hand or say aye to the motion? Okay.
aye.
We have one aye, and all those who are against the motion, would you say nay or raise your hand?
Nay.
Nay.
Nay, I think we need to wait for further information.
Thank you. So it was defeated by a vote of 4-1 against. Was it 4?
I was just saying 1-4, not 4-1, but
Okay, thank you. 1-4, thank you. So we will be reviewing Article 6, Section 11 of the bylaws and Section 11. So we'll start with Article 6. And being cognizant and aware of time is something very valuable to all of us and to all of our viewers. So I think this is the last item under old business. No, it's not. We have one more item. When we do item number 5, if I could make a suggestion that we take a vote and see if we bring those other items, the new items, to our next meeting, or if we actually have to have a special meeting to work on those. If there are some grave concerns about some of the things that are going on, I think maybe we have some dates, and we'll look at it when we do this and see. But it's nearing, it's 6:26 right now. And we had said we were going to go from 4:30 to 6:30. But let's proceed with Article 6, Section 11.
I have a question. Is this where we're talking about a time limit and board members voting, approving, making changes, adding things to the agenda?
No, I was just mentioning that since I think the meeting was to run from 4:30 to 6:30, and I always want to be considerate of the people who are participating and the people who are our audience or our community citizens who are listening. And I just wanted us to touch on that briefly when we did item number 3 and item number 4, if we would talk about that. No one has made a decision about it, but I think that is something that we need to have a small conversation about. I don't think it would take but a few minutes. Adam?
Madam Chair, my 2 cents would be because Ms. Till had these two items that she would like us to talk about, and she was not able to be with us at a previous meeting. Of the two, I would be in favor of staying to address this first of the two items, and then
Yeah,
and
I
then
said that. Maybe I wasn't plain enough, but that was what I said.
oh,
That we would do these two items, number 3 and number 5, and then we would talk about where we are time-wise.
oh, I'm sorry then.
Probably should have said that straight on, but I put a little extra vocabulary in there and probably got lost in translation.
Then that
Yeah.
sounds great to me for my 2 cents worth.
Thank you. Yes. Guys, excuse me for a minute, but I'm having to plug in my iPad because my battery is, so I'm going to put that out there, give you guys a few seconds to review Article 6, Section 11 of the bylaws. And we're going to have a discussion on that.
Madam Chair, shall I read that section while you're plugging in your device?
Absolutely, absolutely. That would be outstanding.
So the version of the bylaws that I have, at least, please correct me if I'm wrong. Article 6, Section 11, the secretary and staff of the elections department, in consultation with the chairperson, shall be responsible for developing a tentative agenda for each meeting. If a board member wishes to add an item to the tentative agenda, such request must be made in writing at least 7 days before the applicable board meeting, and such request shall be added to the tentative agenda upon the written concurrence of at least 2 other board members, provided, however, that per the Georgia Open Meetings Act, failure to include on the agenda an item which becomes necessary to address during the course of a board meeting shall not preclude considering and acting upon such item.
I guess my first comment about this would lean toward what we need to make aware to the attorneys before we discuss anything that they need to research for us. Other than that, I wouldn't have a problem if we added something to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. I'm not really hard on that.
I'm sorry, Ann. The last thing you said, I got kind of lost. It said it kind of got garbled. You said you would not have a problem if we added something to the agenda at the beginning.
Yes, I would be free to add something if somebody wanted to talk about something that came up on the news the night before or wherever their source was. If they wanted to propose that to us and we could decide to discuss it or not, I would be open to that.
And that's concerning the 7 days before the applicable board meeting.
Yes, I think that that's rather archaic, having something that needs to be a notice of 7 days and a number of people approving it. I feel confident that the board members are cognitive of what's going on around us and open meetings, that we don't really need to have such rigid limitations on us. You can correct me, tell me what you think. Other than anything that the attorneys would need to research for us, you know, we would want to give them a heads up of several days. But other than that, I'm open to bringing up anything at any time.
I personally think that you're spot on, and it is kind of archaic. And I think that maybe we should remove that language and kind of pattern it after and move it forward, where when it says that the secretary of staff and the department in consultation with the chairperson, that we would talk or meet the week before and get it to Aletha, because it has to be published 24 hours before. Get it to her that Friday evening or no later than Monday morning, and to do something with that and put it in that format. So we'll be in compliance. Anybody else?
Shall I ask Adam to make that a motion, and I will say, so be it?
Yes.
I'm happy to do that, but I want to be sure that I'm understanding, because I know that the way the bylaws read currently, it kind of implies that that agenda should be sent. Well, no, I can see now. I'm sorry. I'm thinking this through as we're looking at it. So if I'm hearing right from what Madam Chair and Ann are saying, we're thinking of maybe clarifying this part of the bylaws to say that in the interest of informing the attorney's office and keeping everyone looped in, that like staking ourselves to the agenda being made available the Friday before the board meeting. Is that, I'm sorry, I might not be getting where we want to go with this.
I think that's what you do now is something we discussed recently, was publishing it to the public on a Friday and give them several days to ruminate on it. So at our Tuesday meeting, they could be informed.
Okay, then I'm sorry, I'm being slow to catch on to this. So then if we wanted to make that be reflected in the bylaws, would we then want to say that, do we want to add to this that, I'm sorry, help me out.
Let me say this. I think what we're trying to accomplish here is to delete some of the language and put the appropriate language in there that fits more, because this is really, really formal, and it's, as Ann has said, it's like 7 days before, and there's within a 2-day span, you guys know things move so quickly that that's kind of an unreal 7 days to put on it. So I'm looking at must be made in writing at least 7 days, what Ann said, before the applicable board meeting. And such requests shall be added to the tentative agenda upon the written consent of at least 2 other board members. And I'll pause right there, but those are some statements that I would like deleted. And I'm trying to read the rest of it as I go. Provided, however, that per the Georgia Open Meetings Act, failure to include on the agenda an item which becomes necessary to address during the course of board meeting shall not preclude considering and act upon such. So that's kind of okay, as far as I can see. Ann, am I in line any kind of way with what you're thinking is?
Amen. I think that last part we probably legally need to leave in there, but the rest of it, saying that we have to have 7 days and we have to do this, because as you're saying, and I'm thinking, things move too quickly.
Mm-hmm. So we would actually start it if a board member wishes to add and go all the way to 7 days and stop on the next page at where it's start at and stop where these starts and work on that structure of that sentence. The Georgia Open Meetings Act, failure to include on the agenda item, which becomes, that might need some central structure, but for sure the previous parts of that is too tight and too structured. And you're correct, and because we do need to have that in there, that it will be according to whatever we put in there will be according to the Georgia Open Meetings Act.
I agree.
Did that give you any clarity, Adam?
It did, thank you. I'm curious then if it would be helpful for y'all if well, okay. So yes, I hear that we're saying that the last part of this is kind of what we were talking about. That preserves the ability for, of course, acknowledging that something might happen the night before, and that's okay. We can still add stuff to the agenda. The part about staking us to letting a board member requesting an item being added to the agenda, I see that as it's written right now makes it very formal and stakes us to a timeline. But I'm wondering if, and I don't know where these original bylaws came from. It's my understanding, what I've heard is that they were written as a collaboration with people who were outside of the Board of Elections who had known how to draw up bylaws for organizations like this. And I wonder if this, I originally read this section as a way to protect, let's say I as a board member did not have strong relationships with other board members and I came on board and I wanted to add something to the agenda, and maybe there was reluctance by the chairperson or some other people to have that on the agenda, that this maybe gives us a pathway where I can say, I'm very sorry, with respect, Mr. Chair or Madam Chair, I did make this request 7 days in advance. I did have written concurrence from 2 people. Therefore, it needs to be on the, like, I'm wondering if that was maybe there as a defense, a protection for someone, if not like this board is right now, but I'm saying in the years to come, if there were that kind of situation.
I think just for I think the best medicine for that is to take the restraint off the board and allow the board to function collectively and individually. Individually, if you would like something on the agenda, it goes on there. And collectively, if we agree or disagree, it will come out through a vote of the board.
Yes, ma'am, I agree, because if you want to talk about the color of the sky and you think the clouds should be yellow, that doesn't mean I have to discuss it. That doesn't mean that I have to make a motion and agree with you. You can make your statement and it could just fall to the ground.
Right. And I think that gives everybody more freedom rather than the 7-day, still for me it's kind of formal, but I think that will give total freedom of the board to function, as I said, individually and collectively.
All right. I'm wondering what, I think I understand what you would like this to say now, and I'm more than happy to, like, for example, share my screen like we did for the resolution and show you what I'm changing and see if that works. I'm also happy to put a pin in this and then email it to the board so we can, with what I'm thinking y'all are wanting it to say, so we can move on. What do you think, Madam Chair? How should we handle it?
If I'm okay with you sharing your screen. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Rocky.
I'd like to sit on it for till the next meeting. I mean, I'm just, I mean, I agree. I just need to think about every action we take here.
Okay. My brain needs a breather, doesn't it?
I'm good with that. If you want to table it until the next meeting, it's not anything we have to decide on right now.
I'm in agreement with
Okay,
that.
then. So then, before we were to move to table this, maybe I'll share my screen just really briefly so I can be sure that I've captured at least what Madam Chair and Ann were suggesting. Does that sound good to you? Okay.
I can't see your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry. And so I'll be careful and I'll read out loud what I'm changing, if that's okay with you.
Thank you.
All right, so here we go. All right. So are y'all able to see large enough on the screen? Okay, so what I've heard us saying is the section that talks about provided, however, the Georgia Open Meetings Act, we're wanting to at least keep the spirit of that, maybe change the sentence structure later. But what I also heard we're saying is we wanted to free us up from the restriction of having to make it in writing X number of days before the board meeting. So we're saying something like that could go away. And we could say such request must be made before the applicable board meeting. And such requests shall be added. Did we want to kind of make it easier than, like, ease up the restriction? Maybe, okay, what if we did this? Does this capture what you're trying to say? If the first part now just says, if a board member wishes to add an item to the agenda, such request must be made before the applicable meeting. Provided, however, that per the Open Meetings Act, we can still add things if it comes up at the last minute. Does that kind of get what y'all were suggesting tonight?
Do you think that we need to add in there that it should be requested prior to the publishing to the public, say, by that Friday or some time like that? Do we want to add that in there to be sure that we're not legally breaking any laws?
Yeah, I think we kind of need to be specific on this.
Okay.
And keeping in mind that Adam and I usually get together Wednesday or Thursday, and and the staff can add or add anything that they think that is that we should be pinpointing, and be sure to get that no later than Thursday. Have the agenda, the proposed agenda, and send it out to the board members no later than Thursday, but if we can, Thursday morning, Wednesday night, so they can preview it or add something that they might want on it, and perhaps get it to Aletha by that Friday. And if other people jump in, please, and tell me, what are your feelings on those Wednesdays, Thursdays, or whatever we decide on.
I think as Rocky stated, let's think about this and see what we come up with in next meeting. We can solidify this at that time.
Okay.
Trying to kind of capture this for now, and I'll mark that as a suggestion. I'm trying to, sorry, for the benefit of Anne, who can't see my screen, I'm adding a kind of a new sentence that says, such agenda shall be provided to board members X days before the board meeting. And then we go on to the part about if a board member wishes to add an item to the agenda, such request must be made before the agenda is published for the applicable board meeting. Something like that. Is that a good kind of gathering of what we're saying so far?
I think so.
I do too.
Okay, so how about I'll if we wanted to put a pin in this, then I will kind of copy and paste this and share this with the board over an email, and we can kind of rough out or smooth out the rest of the language before next meeting.
Thank you.
All right. I have a motion to table this on for our next meeting, which would be November. It'll be Christmas in a minute. November the 9th is our next meeting. Can I have a
motion? Yes, I make a motion that we table this subject until the next meeting.
Thank you, Ann. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Okay. I saw your hand, Rocky. I just looked up. I was reading some stuff. Okay, we good. So we have a motion to table this until the November the 9th meeting. We have a second. So had kind of a lot of discussion. So, but if there's any discussion and there being none, all those in favor, raise your hand or signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. So, okay, all those opposed? Okay, so it is unanimous, and we're going to table that. And we have one other thing on the old business, and that is the resolution of all previous lawsuits against the board. And I think
Madam Chair?
Yes.
I'm very sorry. I wanted to point out, sorry, two quick things. I believe we had moved to table that item that you just read, right? But then also Lisa had pointed out to us that there is a time-sensitive item under new business about designating a vote review panelist.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, I'm bad about jumping on you like that about that, but you probably knew all that was coming up. Do we want to do both of those, or maybe table the election audits item in favor of the?
I actually want to go to number 5 because we had already said, and I put a mark on the outside of that number 4 because we had already done that. But I was intending for us to go to number 5 and make a quick check of the new business to see, because I see dates on there, see if we had time sensitive items that actually need to be dealt with. So number 5 is actually present state of election audit for Georgia. And Ann, I think that was one of the questions that you had asked.
Yes, because I keep hearing about all of these audits, and I know, oh, maybe 6 or 7 months ago, sometime previous, Director Sosby was talking about an audit with the help of UGA, and I might have missed that at one of the meetings, but I don't remember that being brought up and discussed. So if we could just get a quick update. Perhaps Lisa knows something if the director's gone.
Which Lisa are you referring to? Lisa McGlon or me?
I think
Anyone that has information.
Charlotte is here.
Okay.
Charlotte, you're muted.
What was the question?
We
The
were
status of
wondering,
current audits.
Resolution of all previous lawsuits against the board. Or was there anything hanging out there?
I think that was the one we tabled, right? We're talking about the audits, I thought.
Sorry.
I'm not sure what y'all are talking about.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I keep going back to number 4. I don't know why. I guess because I got that big old star in front of it. It just pulls my attention to it. I am so sorry. It's the present state of election audits for Georgia. I apologize. I need to just cross that sentence out.
Well, we've completed the audit that we were supposed to complete back in November. Well, we did it in January, I believe. I mean, December, November. Yeah, after the November election. But that's the only audit that we were required to do.
Okay.
Was that where you ran the ballots that we've already run back through the machine again? Is that the kind of audit that was performed?
I'm gonna have Lisa McGlon to describe that audit process to you. Of course, we had a hand count, and then there was an audit. But I'm not sure if it was the kind of audit that the state had laid out for us, because the audit that we do is to determine if the right person was named the winner. And the state would give us a particular ballot to pull from each batch. And but that's not the kind of audit we did. My understanding, the only kind of audit we did was sort of like a recount. But Lisa can give you more details on what we did.
I am so sorry. I had to step away, so I don't know exactly what you were talking about. What did you need me to add? I apologize.
The audit that we did here in Georgia.
Are you talking about in November?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So originally we did a risk limiting audit, which is required by the state after every general election now. It can be a randomized audit where the state tells us they use a random number generator and an algorithm to figure out which ballots we're going to pull. They tell us how to do that, and we perform the audit. But what we had to do because the state chose to do it this time was a hand tally audit where we physically looked at and hand tallied the presidential race on each and every ballot that was cast in November. And then we did a recount. So the ballots were then scanned again. And that is the only audits that we've been involved in besides the small signature audit that was done by UGA.
Okay, I'm sorry. I think the UGA audit was one that I had missed as to how that turned out and how it was performed. So I guess at this time, that's really all I'm looking for. Thank you, Lisa.
You're welcome.
Thank you. As we look over our new business, there's one thing on there that we need to do now. is the superintendent designee to the voter review panel for the November 2nd, 2021 election. And the dates that that particular person needs to serve are stated on here. And we as the board can make that selection. I did have a person in mind, but they are not going to be around at that time or in town, I think. Does any other member have anyone that we could appoint for this position? I have a question. Can a board member serve in that capacity? I know we're awfully busy that night. Well, on 1-2, we actually are really, really busy.
I know that we appointed Mr. Napper last, I want to say the June 2020 election.
I think I remember that.
And to answer
when a review panel was not available, they called me and I went down there on a Saturday.
yeah, I think I served for a moment too, maybe, I'm not sure. But does any other member have a recommendation of a person?
For which days are we talking about? All three right now?
1-1, November the 1st, November the 2nd, and November the 8th. It's on it's included it on our agenda.
Yeah, I'm happy to serve on the 1st, on that Monday, if need be.
I can work whenever you need for me to.
You can do the 8th?
I can do whatever you need for me to do.
Okay. Thank you, Hank. So, Hank, you said you could do it on 1-1, or is that person a person that has to go all the way through the process, or can we break it up like that?
I'm looking at the code and it says that you can create different panelists or different review panels. So I guess you would have one review panel that would be the 2 appointees from the judge and one of the designees from the board. And then you would create a second panel that will be the 2 appointees from the judge and a different board member or person thereof.
Okay.
Well, if it makes things simpler and Ms. Still can serve all the 3 days, although on the 2nd, we are all going to be busy with checking in the materials, I would be delighted if she can, and you can work on that Monday and the 8th also.
I got part of that. I didn't hear everything you said, Hank.
If it makes it easier that the same people are on the review panel, if you would like to serve on the 1st and the 8th, I think that'd be great. I don't have to. I was just doing it because no one else was stepping up.
Charlotte, did I understand you correctly to say that each day there's a panel appointed?
You do, as the superintendent, have the option of creating more than one panel.
Mm-hmm.
So
that would mean that we could have 3 different people on each day. Is that?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So we're kind of back to square one, where it won't be so much on one individual if that's not what people would want to do. I can serve one day. Hank, you said you'd do one day, and Miss Teal said that she would do one day. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be a good experience for each of us.
I think so too, Miss Teal. Hank and Miss Teal, which day would you all like?
I will work whenever someone can't.
Okay.
Okay. I'll put it to you like this. I'm retired.
And we need to have one for the duplication team as well as the vote review panel.
Okay.
But they have to be two different panels, if that makes sense. You
It
can't
does.
have, yeah, so, and my question too is, if you're serving in that capacity, so would you not be available for us as a board member?
No.
Good question, right?
It's a super duper question that we need answered, right? Yeah, because on that Tuesday, especially on that Tuesday, that's the second Tuesday. That's not the Tuesday that we normally meet, but we do have a meeting that day. Am I not correct in that?
Yes, there's a meeting that day, and there's a meeting on the 8th for certification. So the duplication team and the vote review panel would need to be available for that as well.
Okay. And we don't have a time for the 8th, but we do have time. We do have a time for, and that 4 p.m. coincides kind of with when we would hold our meeting, which would begin at 4:30.
Maybe we need to find someone to fit into that slot and not take the board apart.
That's what I think would be best too. But again,
Be best, but I think that Lisa has told us, Lisa, aren't we on a timeline? We need to get this done this evening. Or
I
okay.
was just pointing out that if you were going to table some of the agenda items because of time, that
Yeah,
you might want to consider going ahead and deciding this one, because you'll need to notify this person so they can work, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Chairwoman Vanbro, sorry.
Oh, the brain needs food.
Well, I'd like to just make the point that the 3 commission appointees should be the people to recommend someone, not myself or Miss Till. I think we need a more neutral party to the panel. So can the 3 of you think of someone from our community? Perhaps you've talked to someone prior.
I did, but they're not going to be able to do it. They would have been really good.
And I apologize for turning my video off and on. I'm also playing dad at the moment. Well, I'm not playing dad. I am dad at the moment. So that's why I keep turning the video off.
No, not a problem. Not a problem.
Freudian slip.
Hank, did I hear you?
Oh, nothing. I was just sorry about that. I was just responding to Rocky been playing dad.
So, Madam Chair,
Adam.
I wanted to be sure that I understand. So I had failed to appreciate that we needed a ballot duplication team or a voter duplication team. So we need 2 people for Monday the 1st from 1 to 4 p.m., Tuesday the 2nd from 4 p.m. until whenever it's done, and then Monday the 8th TBD. Have I got that right? We need 2 people that we need to designate for those dates. Have I got that right? I'm seeing nods. Okay.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, I should have addressed my question to somebody. Sorry. Now, from what I recall, if I understand right, the voter duplication team is a new creation of SB 202. It was something that was done when I was a vote review panelist. It was handled, I believe, by Director Sosby, the assistant county manager were handling that kind of stuff. And the main thing that the vote review panel did it was a lot of hurry up and wait, right? We had a big old pile of ballots to put in there, but once it was time to go, we had an hour and a half or, a couple hours of stuff, but there was a long lean time in there built in. I don't know if that'll be the same now, but I would expect for this election, it wouldn't be nearly as busy as it was last year for June. So I'm curious, I'm wondering how much that factors into the commitments that are required if we were to commit a board member to one of these things. Definitely, I wouldn't want to do this for the November 22 election, but for this one, I wonder if we might skate by, so to speak, by having one of us serve in that capacity and be able to pause that work to jump into a board meeting for certification or something like that. I don't know what y'all's thoughts are on that.
As I see it, it's probably going to have to be that way since we each, don't have anyone in particular that is not on the board or, a citizen that we could name at this point.
I'm going to make one phone call. If I come up lucky, maybe we can nominate that person. Stand by.
Okay, thank you.
Did I hear, Madam Chair, if you don't mind, one more question?
Go ahead.
Did I hear somebody talk about, so we definitely have a meeting. We're going to have a meeting. What would be our normal November meeting? We are announcing on the agenda, we're going to bump it to the certification meeting also to have the two at once, I thought. But then I heard someone mention that Tuesday, the 2nd of November was also going to be a meeting. I need clarification, please, if you wouldn't mind, on when we're planning to meet. How many meetings?
You would have a meeting on the 2nd, and you would have another meeting on the 8th for certification.
Oh,
Thank you, Lisa.
thank you. Huh, okay. And then now I then see what we're talking about. If we have that meeting, we need a quorum. And so if we commit more than 2 of us to something from 4 p.m. on, then we don't have a quorum.
If we split it up, it would be only one. But still, in a perfect world, all of us would be present at that, that November the 2nd meeting of the board.
Right. And I'm sorry, this is betraying my ignorance. This is my first time through a regular general election. What does that meeting entail on the 2nd?
Don't ask me to call on my memory. Oh, God. Help us out here, ladies.
Charlotte, have you got that one?
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot. This is just something I was curious about. I understood that, like, board members, for the runoff, we were helping out, driving around town, checking on polling places. We came back and helped. Miss Nan, had Hank and me check in the voters, that kind of stuff. What would be happening on election day for us to be meeting about? What would the order of business be for that?
Charlotte, do you want to answer that?
Yeah, Aletha's getting ready to send an agenda, I think, what was used previously, but usually it's to talk about any kind of things you might have witnessed as a board member when you were visiting the polling locations, or any event that was reported to the office that would need your attention. But mainly for challenges, if challenges were made by voters, and somebody's right to vote was challenged, then you would meet on that. And I believe that's about it.
Thank you. So then, thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate a lot more now. That's not something we need to be losing board members during, right? That's something we need everyone's attention on, that, all 5 of us. So, yep, with 2 people to fit in that spot, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know how many names.
Yeah, because that's a 4 p.m. until completion on the 2nd.
If we had to, and I'm sorry, I'm kind of filling the time while we're waiting for Rocky to get back from his phone call. Madam Chair, what do you think? I'm curious what the board thinks about, if we had to do this, we could just stand in recess during our meeting if we had to If there was duplication that had to happen, adjudication of vote review panel stuff, we could just, the meeting can stand in recess. And then once we finish with that inbox of UOCAVA ballots to duplicate or whatever, then we reconvene and resume business.
Great question.
Charlotte can correct me if I'm wrong, but normally the meeting, nothing else is going on during that meeting. There's no scanning going on during that time. I mean, because we're all in the meeting, so
It's kind
everything
of
sort of stops for that period of time, and then we go back to it when the meeting's over.
okay.
Okay, then that's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
So that means that for the second, at least, we
could possibly use, a board member could possibly fill in for that.
Possibly that, I know that would conflict, that runs up against, overlaps with the time when we're checking in the materials, right, from the polling places as they come back in. And, you know, we've been talking logistics, assuming that we were going to have most, if not all, board members available for that part. But that's an hour and a half, 2 hours of check-in. Is that how long the process works ish? Anyway, this is getting way into the nuts and bolts of stuff that is important, very important. But wow, I made assumptions I shouldn't have made about what this involves.
Rocky?
My idea did not come to fruition, so back to the drawing board.
Yeah, we were in a discussion about November the 2nd, and possibly a board member might be able to fill in for that date. And then we got off into, we got off into the thing we were talking about before. It's called double dipping, or it's not double dipping, but you know, how would that affect what, you know, as far as hours worked in that capacity and being on the board, you know? So I'm not familiar with that, with that type of information. But if you want to, Adam, you know, could you please articulate that again for us, what you were saying about that?
Yes, ma'am. So I guess my understanding now is that Monday the 1st from 1 to 4 p.m. we need 2 people. The board members are not otherwise obligated, so that seems to me is free for us to, if we wanted to commit ourselves there.
Yeah.
On the 2nd, on election day, I've learned that we have a meeting at around 4:30 p.m. where and Aletha's just sent us the agenda for that. But during that time, there's no scanning, duplication, adjudication going on. So if one of us were the designee to be on that panel, we wouldn't be double booked anyway. We'd be able to focus on the meeting. Meeting finishes, then we're free to put the other hat on and be a panelist. But then there's the check-in time, the equipment check-in. And I know that staff had been operating under the assumption that we would, at least most, if not all of us, would be able to be there for that portion. So there'd be a lot of starts and stops, it sounds like, potentially, but it's a small election. So maybe we won't feel that as much as we would if we tried this in a general in 22. I think that's what we had talked about, Madam Chair.
Yes. Could that be worked out, Charlotte? Okay.
Sounds like we got a plan.
I know, right?
Have to talk it out and walk it out.
Yes. The only thing we need now is commitment from okay, so I think Rocky had said that it should be either one of the 3 of us others that are appointed by the mayor and commission, rather than the people who are sent by the parties, the individual parties. So Adam, how would that be looking for you?
I want to be sure. I think I understand the sentiment behind Rocky's suggestion. I wonder if Rocky was thinking about the names that are suggested should come from us 3, or it should only be the 3 mayor and commission appointees who are, for lack of a better word, eligible to be the designee. I wonder what the thinking is on that, because I see where he's coming from, but I want to know how far Rocky's thinking of going with that thinking.
Well, I was thinking that the nomination of names would basically, I would abstain from giving a name.
Gotcha.
But I think only if, I don't know. I think we can all serve on the panel because we're all here for the same purpose.
Great.
But
Yes.
as far as nominating people, that's all.
Then I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I get that. I support that totally. So then, I guess from what I'd heard before, it sounded like, Madam Chair, you, Ann, and Hank had expressed complete flexibility about filling in these spots. We're all going to be there. I'm sorry, I'm assuming we're all going to be available at 4 p.m. on election day anyway. So we're all going to kind of be there to jump in. So we could maybe do a blanket designation. I don't know if that would kind of cover our bases, or if we need to specify which person for which date, or what is most appropriate.
Yeah. I think since it's gonna be split between the 3 days between 3 people, that there has to be some kind of designation for two, for the 3 days. Because we all will not be there on that Monday. And I think on the 8th, we will all be there. Am I correct, Charlotte? The full board will be there on the 2nd and on the 8th. So the spot that we really have to kind of hone in on is that November the 1st, when there needs to be a designation of a particular individual to be present that day.
Gotcha. And I think if I understood right, there need to be 2 people, right? A vote review panelist and a ballot duplication officer panelist, for lack of a better word. So we need 2 designees then. Maybe we could designate Willa Fambro and Hank Kadir for Monday, November the 1st, if that still works for y'all schedules.
Mm-hmm. I could commit to that.
And those are the first 2 names that I saw. I know that Ann had mentioned that she also is fully available. So if Monday is less convenient for one of you 2, maybe Ann could swap in.
No.
But then if we're all going to, sorry.
Whatever Hank and Ann say, I'm 100% behind that. So when y'all fall back, I'm gonna catch you.
All right. So then Monday, when we had published the agenda, we had a TBD for the time of that. Director Sosby, if you wouldn't mind, have we nailed down what that time is going to be for the 8th?
No, totally left up to you guys. I'm thinking probably if you could meet earlier, that would be great. But 5 o'clock, if that's what you want.
I got you. I know that this. I'm
Have
sorry,
a timeline, Director Sesby, to be finished with that and turn it in?
Yes, it's supposed to be certified by that day, but I'm not sure if it gives a time.
I see.
I have to look it up.
So I see that. So we would need a vote review panelist and a duplication panelist on the 8th as well. Yes. And I guess, am I getting it right? I think this is what we noticed from my first meeting, which was the certification. That's to have them available in case, I guess, if judgment calls are made on ballots that were questionable or quarantine. Yes. I'm losing the term, but is that what they're there for? They need to be there for us if we say, check this one. Okay. Right. Gotcha. So then whenever we decide our meeting, I'm seeing that's when they need to be on standby. So then that can be us also, because we're right there if we need to do that. So Madam Chair, then I guess if all 5 of us are planning to be available for that meeting for certification anyway, then any 2 of us could be the panelists. It's not ideal, but it gets the job done, is what I'm thinking.
I agree.
So then do we need to only simply go as far as, I'm sorry.
Oh, I didn't know I thought I was muted.
Sorry,
something. I just saw. So the Senate bill does require the certification of the results to be done by 5 p.m. on Monday.
Okay, so we need to meet earlier in the day. Okay, so normally you guys would have those ready that morning, or that at noon, or
at noon at the earliest, probably.
Okay.
But we can have it sooner if you need us to have it sooner.
Oh, no, 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 no. Y'all
Okay,
y'all do what y'all gotta do and let us know.
okay. So if you want to give us to noon, that'd be great.
Okay, so
Well, I believe, Adam, you are working on that Monday, so what is a convenient time that you would be able to join? Although you don't have to be there, we would have a quorum without you, but I think it would be nice for you to be there.
I appreciate it. Yeah, it's very important. I think it's very important that I'm there. The soonest that I can be there without missing work for it would be 4 p.m. If we call to
Well,
order at 4 p.m.
But that's too late because it
They
needs
have
to
to-
be done
they-
by 5. Can we do it on the Friday before that?
That would have to be after 5 o'clock.
That's what we've done in the past. They were late all-nighters. Well, not all-nighters, but I think we started at 5 and just went till 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 until we finished, if my memory serves me correct.
Was
Which
that
I'm okay with. I would rather not be there on a Friday night, but if it keeps Adam at work on Monday, then I think we're
And then
in
it's
good shape.
done. You don't have to think about it anymore.
Yeah, and then it gives us, if there's an error or some type of mistake, it gives us time to reconvene to correct the mistake.
Yeah.
absolutely? We want to have space for that.
So how about 4 o'clock on that Friday then? Would that be good?
Works
Can
for me.
Let's just 4:30, and then that way Adam can not avoid driving like a race car driver, and we can all just be there safely.
We're talking about that. We're talking about the 8th, right?
Yes. No. The 8, 7, what is it? 2,
Which
3,
fifth?
4, the 5th.
Yeah.
Okay, let me look at my calendar. Okay, so
then though, the 8th is off the table. So the person I just called, their conflict was the 8th. So I could possibly call them back.
They were available
okay,
for.
so
Yeah.
we're actually looking at that Friday to do this. The 5th,
Yeah.
is that my understanding now?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So that would give us a breather, and we know we'll be through by that Monday, so they can turn everything in. Okay.
Okay, so then I guess as far as to designate our panelists, seems like still we need to designate 2 names on the 1st, but then for the 2nd and now the 5th, we're all going to be present.
Be there, and who's up for the job will go for the job.
Okay, so then to mind our P's and Q's, would it be helpful, I wonder, for Director Sosby, if there were a motion that we made naming us as those panelists, or, okay. So Madam Chair, I guess maybe, shall we make them, since it seems like we were talking about having 3 separate teams technically, then would we maybe make a motion for each of the dates and just give the names of the people that are going to be designees for that?
Yeah.
I'd be ready to make that motion if that's okay with you.
Well, thank you so much if you would.
All right. I would move that we designate Ann Till and Hank Kadir to serve as vote review panelist and ballot duplication panelist on Monday, November the 1st from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And I'll stop that one there so we have 3 separate motions.
Okay.
Do we need a second?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'll second that. That's fine.
Okay.
And I'm curious, sorry, I hate to question my own motion. I'm sorry, Madam Chair. Director Sosby, would it be more helpful to y'all if we specified who was doing what, or is this okay?
It'll be okay. We'll have name badges for you, and we won't make it too technical for you. We'll just have the name badges, and whoever's there, we'll just put that person's name on the badge and tell them which table to sit at.
Sit them down. That's right.
This is that kind of election that we can, relax a little bit.
Yeah, thank God.
I hope
Just about
Adam sends out an email to remind us of where we're supposed to be and when.
I will be happy to do that. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Adam, you want to read that again?
Sure. So the motion is to designate Ann Till and Hank Kadir to serve as vote review panelist and ballot duplication panelist on Monday, November the 1st, 2001 from 1 p.m. until 4 p.m.
Okay. And we had a second on that. Was that, who seconded that?
Rocky.
Rocky seconded that. Okay, so we have a second on the motion. So all those in favor, would you signify by saying aye or raise your hand? Aye.
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 And all those opposed? So we have a unanimous vote for the November the 1st. And Adam, do you have any language for us for the second?
I was trying to think that through now. I guess for clarity, we do need to specify. We could like cover our bases and just say we designate one of and name the 5 of us. And that way, whoever wants to do it, or sorry, 2 of the following 5 people. That way we have kind of a bench of people. Or if it's more helpful for staff for us to go ahead and name those 2 people, like we just did for the first day, we could do that. Depends on which way staff and the rest of the board wants to go with it.
Yeah.
I would think based on what Charlotte just said previously, that it would be okay to say one of you 5.
Thank you, Lisa.
Okay, in that case, thank you, ma'am. Madam Chair, I guess the draft motion that I would make is I move that we designate 2 of the following to serve as vote review panelist and ballot duplication panelist on Tuesday, November the 2nd from 4 p.m. until completion. Willa Fambro, Ann Till, Hank Kadir, Rocky Raffle, and Adam Shirley.
Mm-hmm. That is your motion. And can I get a second on that?
I second it.
Thank you, Ms. Teal. So we have a motion and a second, and all those in favor, would you signify by saying yay or raise your hand?
Yay.
Aye.
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aye.
Thank you. So it seems that it was unanimous. And if we could again get some language from our secretary and move forward.
And Madam Chair, just going by the same pattern, I would move that we designate 2 of the following to serve as vote review panelist and ballot duplication panelist on Friday, November the 5th from 4:30 p.m. until completion. Willa Fambro, Ann Till, Rocky Raffle, Hank Kadir, and Adam Shirley.
Do I have a second on that? Rocky, thank you. It has been, the motion has been, Adam, the statement that Adam made, and it has been properly second. Is there any discussion? If not, all those in favor, raise your hand and say aye or raise your hand. Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous again. So we have that taken care of. And since we're on a roll, maybe we can get these other 2 items knocked out. And I put this one on the agenda, the update of the Athens Multimodal Center. I keep hearing rumors that they're going to move. Is that true, or are those just rumors?
I have not heard that one, but I will inquire.
I'm
That'd
like,
be a nice building or
people,
something.
got several people asking me this. Aren't they getting ready to move to multi-mo? I don't know, but I will ask.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you,
Okay.
Director Sosby. We'll get an update on that at the next meeting. Thank you. Or an email. And number 3, instructions for GIO on how to draw new proposed precinct lines. Adam?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have learned a whole bunch in the past month, just like I've learned a whole bunch in the past year about how intricate this process is, everything about elections. Thank you so much to staff for helping me. And thank you to Director Sosby for responding to the email that I sent the board and Director Sosby last night. Since I was the one who kind of suggested keeping this at the front of our minds, given the time and how much we've accomplished in this meeting already, I understand this is a time-sensitive thing. I understand that we are encouraged to send recommendations to GIO as soon as possible, or sooner than later. But I think this needs more time for us to marinate on. But I just would want to ask board members to look over the email that I sent for where I'm thinking about going, trying to lead our discussion about redistricting or the proposed precinct changes. That's kind of what I wanted to say to begin this.
Thank you. So do you want us to continue to move that forward on the agenda?
If the room had capacity to continue discussing this, I'm happy to roll my sleeves up and dig into this. I'm also happy to just be sure that we table this and talk about it at the next meeting, or schedule a special meeting before then if we think this needs to be addressed sooner than that and get more attention. I'm just kind of curious where we're at. I just know that I don't want to find ourselves with our backs against the wall, so to speak, and we've got to have something right now, and we have to make a snap decision. I don't think that that'll result in the best decision being made for the elections of next year. So that's kind of where I'm at with it. If we need to move on something now, I can go. If we want to call a special meeting, I'm good with that. I'm just curious where the board is at with this.
I think with what all is going, and this is just my opinion, that what all is going on with this, that perhaps a special meeting, but no, that's what I suggest. But open ears to any suggestion from any members or staff. Thank you.
And Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, I was pausing to be sure I didn't speak over somebody else. I'm cognizant of how little I truly understand how tired staff is going to be over the next couple of weeks, leading up through certification. But I know also here we are, right? It's coming down to the wire with the new maps and everything. I don't know, like what
do you think?
When would be a less stress? Like when Director Sosby, when do you expect after certification? When do you expect would be a good amount of buffer to give staff before they are as calm as they're going to get before we jump into a midterm election season?
I foresee after the election, we will be looking at maps that might be presented through the General Assembly, and hoping that, that they could get passed and not go into the next year. And then we would start touching all of our voters as far as determining what their district combos will be, renumbering our district combos specifically, and then changing our system, ENET, for every street that we have here in Clarke County. And then, of course, from that point, we would do some kind of audit where we double check to make sure that we have all of our voters in the correct precincts associated with the district combos, and make sure that we have a listing of all those combos so that when we get ready to start ballot building, that there is a ballot for every single voter here in our county. So it's just going to be hurry up and wait kind of situation. And we just have to be ready when it all starts to fall.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Hank, I see your hand.
Yeah, quick question for the director. When should we expect something from the GIO office in terms of maps? So we are a little better prepared to discuss it than we are today.
So I don't believe any maps are being worked on right now. Mostly everything is population and I forgot what they're called, but sort of like land lots. That's basically what's being done right now. And he and I are going to get together, and I think there's some other people that's going to get together. We're going to come up with the possibility of 2 or 3 different maps. I can't remember if it may be three or 4 maps. And one of the maps is going to be one that has 2 super precincts, from my understanding, or it's 2 super districts. So it'll be an 8-2, so 8 regular districts and then 2 super districts to support the 10 commissioners that we have. And then there's going to be, I believe, 2 additional maps that we will present to the mayor and commission, hoping to get their approval and then giving it to someone that will represent us at the General Assembly to present it to the General Assembly for vote. And that could go all the way up to February, depending on, how things move. Keeping in mind that the state reps and House of Representatives, they have to do their maps as well, which was one of the things that held us up in my former county. The state Senate at the last minute came up with another plan. And so that delayed us getting our district combos ready for our voters. So I would like for us to be prepared for anything that could happen.
Well, I would like to see the population distribution map as soon as that, if they already have it. And also I would like to see the old one to see how much has the shift really been. So are we getting prepared for major changes in our precinct lines, or is it just very superficial? And that would help me at least.
From what I've seen, some of the districts will change a bit.
Yeah.
And what stood out to me most was that it was most of the even number districts that grew in population. And of course, Joseph is making a presentation. It hadn't started yet, but he's making a presentation in the work session today or this evening. And but they haven't got to that particular item yet. But it's going to be interesting to see how it's going to be, apportioned. Because my understanding, they're trying to have about, if I recall, about 13,000 voters in each district, I believe it was. So it's going to be pretty interesting. There's some precincts or districts that's going to look a whole lot different than what they look now.
Okay, so that means we will have our work cut out for us a little bit to redistrict it. Because yeah, if we can keep on the current poll location, which I totally agree with you, unless there is 1 or 2 that just are not functioning well, then like to see if we can come up with, we can redraw the districts around those poll stations, but shouldn't be forced to do it that way. That's why I want to see the 2 comparison maps and see how it looks.
Yeah. Thank you, Hank. This is born out of my ignorance of this process because I've never gone through a redistricting before. But what is our role in this process?
Your role would not be dealing with at all the district lines, but the polling precinct lines, you have that authority to adjust those. And to name the precincts. what the locations are for those particular precincts. But the
So,
commissioners and the Board of Education, I believe they'll work on their lines, and then the General Assembly will have, see, they could decide on a map, the commission could, and then the General Assembly could come up with their own map of how they feel like the district should be drawn. And that happens sometimes.
okay, so I got a little confused when you said that, and I know we can decrease or increase the precincts. But I got kind of off when you said we have the ability to move the precinct lines, which puts me in another mindset. Isn't that what they're actually doing right now? Moving lines around and reapportioning?
They're doing it according to their districts. So the commission district lines could change and the Board of Education lines could change, but the precinct lines are totally your responsibility. So you could easily change a precinct to include two districts if you wanted to, two commission districts. You could easily do that and use the district lines rather than, you know, the lines that you have already.
Yeah, I think we already have them, if I'm not mistaken, some of that actually going on in this area where I live in Winterville. I think he had the last thing that was on that map that I saw. It was like, I got it somewhere on my photographs, but it was a drawing that was set up where it was like 3 precincts were within, looked like it was over boundary, but they were precincts, and 2 were assigned here, 1 was assigned there, and I wish you could explain it better, but maybe as we go along, I'll and I see that map again, I'll ask those questions because I know they touched on it.
And that's possible with your municipalities. They have their lines to draw as well.
Mm-hmm.
And because the city of Winterville is not elected by district, it may be something that they're looking into to split it according to the districts and draw lines within the city limits of Winterville.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it depends on how they're going to proceed. If they're going to continue to be a at-large city council, or if they're going to be a district-specific city council.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I actually I live in Clarke County, but I vote, my precinct is in Winterville, which has been why I go to the poll early. But that's a conversation for another time. Adam, I'm sorry, I saw you and I see you. Go ahead.
That's okay. Thank you, ma'am. I've learned a lot. Like I said, I appreciate Director Sosby's response to my email. I see the wisdom in the advice that because voters' districts are going to change based on the state legislature's decision, that'll be enough of an adjustment. There's going to be some confusion, enough confusion for us to deal with there. If we were to also change polling locations, if it's extremely important, maybe, but just to change it for less important reasons, I see the wisdom in maybe holding off on that. So all that to say, the main thrust of my putting this item on the agenda was to talk more about the precinct line changing and the polling place changing. I think I need to learn more about this and gain an even deeper appreciation for all the moving parts here. I don't see a good time between now and the election certification to have a special meeting. I would be curious if we can set the date at our November meeting anyway, but I wonder what we might think about meeting between certification and Thanksgiving. If we had a special meeting that was more dedicated to digging into this stuff than we have already. I wonder what the board might think about that, or Madam Chair.
Okay, anyone would like to speak on that?
I might have a little comment that my brain after 3 or 4 hours begins to freeze up. So if we have too much to cover in one meeting, it just all kind of becomes gobbledygook. So if we could have maybe a meeting that we talk for an hour or two about a specific subject, it might be a little bit clearer in my mind.
Yeah, my brain did that about an hour ago, Miss Teal. But that's a good suggestion. And it should actually, I'm thinking it should actually be after we go through this election cycle. What do you all think?
Yeah, I think I like Adam's suggestion between certification and Thanksgiving holidays. Absolutely. And I think we should devote that special meeting just for the discussion.
Just for this.
Hopefully we'll have some preliminary maps, even though, we are only in charge of redistricting of our precincts, but I'd still like to see whatever information we have so we can have a little more better discussion than we are having today. Right now, we are just groping.
Okay. So at some time, what we're planning to do is to get a date for that particular meeting, which we don't have to do right now. Am I correct? Or what's the intent to try to get a date now? Because
That's correct.
We're going to be meeting officially on the 11th. On November the 2nd, and we actually have a regular meeting on November the 9th. So at that time, we can actually put something on the agenda, but we'll move forward to do something with our agenda for our November the 9th meeting, if that's okay with you all, rather than try to push some kind of discussion forward right now. Okay.
That's a good idea.
Thank you. So we don't have to vote, and I think we're all in agreement that that's what we,
Right.
actually need to do. Okay. At this point, we're at announcements, and November's regular meeting will be November the 8th, 2021 at 4:30 p.m. And I'm sure that we're going to get some announcements from staff about our 11-1, 11-2, and 11-5 meetings out to the public, because all of that will be happening before our November the 8th. November the 8th meeting. I don't know that 8th.
Shouldn't it be on the 9th?
Yeah, I was thinking, because I had
Exactly.
said 9th before. As I speak, I'm checking my calendar. Yeah.
Yes,
It
ma'am.
is. It should be the 9th. It
Sorry,
is.
Madam Chair. I was going to clarify. That was when you and I had spoken originally to set the tentative agenda. We had figured that, like in January, we're going to do 2 birds with 1 stone, right? Have our certification meeting and our regular meeting on that Monday. But
Right.
now we've done some changing around, right?
That was the intent. Yes.
Right.
But we've come around to another idea on that. So, about our special meeting that we're probably going to have. So our next regular scheduled meeting will be November the 9th at 4:30 p.m. at our Lexington. No, we'll be doing that. We'll be doing that meeting as we are now on WebEx for public view. And also, as I said, keeping in mind the other dates that we discussed here tonight. And I would really like to thank everybody for their patience, if you stayed with us, and thank the staff so much for all the hard work that you do. This is not easy. These things are not easy. And I want the staff to know that the board, we really appreciate you all, and you do great, excellent work. And thank you so very much. And I will entertain a motion if no one has anything. Adam?
I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. I want to be clear on this. I'm confused now. So we have 3 meetings inside a week in November. right? We're meeting on we're meeting on Tuesday, November the 2nd. We'll meet to discuss the things that Aletha sent to us. Then we're going to meet to certify on Friday the 5th of November. And then we're going to meet again on Tuesday the 9th of November. And okay. And so
that's my understanding. If someone has anything else,
I'm fine with it too, but I'm wondering if there's any way we can
combine something.
Combine stuff. But if not, hey, I just want to be sure that we didn't.
I think when we start trying to find someone for the dates above, that we kind of used up all of our options.
Okay, I got you. All right, so then I'll make sure I understood those meeting times. Great. So 4:30 p.m. for all of those. Is that correct?
11:1, 11:2, and I think that we had discussed meeting at 5 on the 5th, on November the 5th. We had discussed, I don't know whether we came to any conclusion, but we had discussed 5 o'clock. So
I thought we
there
came
will
up
be a
with
good
4:30.
Okay.
But that 5 is fine.
Okay, you know, whatever you guys say, but I thought 5 o'clock. I'm probably mistaken, having a few brain freezes. So I'm probably mistaken about that.
I know we came down off of 4 o'clock because somebody was afraid I'd get a speeding ticket. I appreciate that, but I wasn't sure if we went to 4:30 or 5.
Okay.
I think we went to 4:30.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So we're clear on those dates.
Thank you.
Thank you all. All right. So I will at this time entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second, Ms. Teal, that was you? Okay,
Yes,
so
ma'am.
if signify by raising your hand and or saying aye,
Aye.
it's unanimous. Everybody have a good night and thank you all for coming.
Thank y'all very much.
Thanks, guys.